We've got a very special edition of Funk Music with Zack, and that's what's getting ready to come up right now. So y'all are in for a definite treat with this special edition of Funk Music with Zack. It's a interview that was done with one of the true funk masters that is here in the area. So I think that y'all are in for a definite treat. So that's what we've got going on right now. So right now we're going to give you this very special replay of a very special interview that was done with John Willis. So I think that y'all are in for a definite treat. So just let y'all know that that's what's going to happen right now on Funk Music with Zack.
What have you been doing?
Well, I've worked on and off with Dave Mullen and Butter.
Okay.
Dave Mullen's incredible sax player who is on my CD.
Okay.
And right now he's focusing on New Orleans music.
Okay. Okay.
Work with Dave Mullen. Obviously the Nappy Head Funk Army, which there's nothing like it. Worked with the Clones of Funk down in Maryland.
Right. My boys, yeah.
Yeah. And some of the local bands, the B-side band, Chemistry 101, just doing all the local haunts.
Right. Now, you was telling me a little bit about, we obviously know New York, COVID, Long Island, but we was talking on the phone the other day, and you had mentioned that they were starting to open up a few small places on Long Island.
Yeah.
What are they doing with that?
Well, I mean, I don't know the details, but I was surprised to see that some of the clubs were opening up to small audiences and I guess testing things out on the weeknights.
Right.
I'm a little nervous about the venues getting packed too soon, too early.
Me too, man. Me too.
I think the clubs that have like outdoor seating, it's perfect this time of year because people want to get outside, get some fresh air, and with outdoor seating, you get some space.
You can get away, yeah. That concerns me, and that concerns me not just for New York, but for every state. What are you doing? Because musicians have to work, bartenders and waitresses and cooks and chefs, and people have to serve, bar managers have to get paid. But are we putting our health at risk? Which I got to err on the side of caution. That's just my personal opinion. But I'm really scared because at some point I want my kids to go back to school. You know what I mean? It's like I do want them to finish their education at some point.
Yeah.
Well, it's scary here because the schools are empty. It's very weird. I live next door and across the street from a school, so there's a school next door to me. And it's funny you mentioned that because it's even more haunting not to hear the children at the school. It's like a ghost town.
Yeah, it's weird. And, kids can only hold it together, but for so long, especially the teenagers,
Except for parents.
Yeah, right. Right. That's true. So, John, new music, the Groovalicious Project. All right. Tell us about that. How did it originate? When is the release date? We're going to chop it up, and then I want to hear this first cut in a minute. But tell us a little bit about the first song and the project, and before we hear you play the first one.
Okay, well, the project started with basically just wanting to do a wide variety of music because when you play in certain bands or certain units, you play whatever that unit's focus is.
Correct.
And, over the years, I've kind of got this moniker for being a real funk cat and realized that, funk comes in so many shapes and forms. So if I put the project together, I would be able to just reveal that some other things I do, some smooth jazz, some funk, some R&B, some rock ballads, things like that. And the funny part is that if you strip these tracks down, the funk are all in there.
Yeah, I know. I can imagine.
So I actually had some fun putting together the unplugged tracks because I got to pull out the pieces that I really liked. And I was like, man,
right. Yeah.
a nice groove going on, man.
Okay. What's the name of this first song that you're going to play for us?
First song I'm going to do for you is a tune called 2 a.m.
2 a.m.? Okay. Now, besides the obvious, you was up at 2 a.m. writing it. what? And I'm sure, I don't know, but I'm sure. But what is it the song about, and where did you come up with that title?
Well, when you're gigging, 2 a.m. is usually the sweet spot on the gig, man.
Yes.
That's you've already got the jitters out. Everyone's warmed up. Everyone's had a few drinks. Everyone's cruising with you. 2 a.m. is the moment.
I love that analogy. That's beautiful. That's so sweet. See, that's the kind of stuff that I could only get from you, the pearls of wisdom.
You have to be there.
Spot. Yeah. Oh, yeah, the sweet spot. Boy, do I miss the sweet spot.
Oh, yeah, we all do, man. I can't wait to get back to the stage.
Yeah, man. All right, so we got a little bit on that, the sweet spot. Yo, let's hear that song, man. 2 a.m.
All right. Let's hope that all of the sounds and levels are good.
It'll be all right, man.
And coming at you.
Turn the track up. Yo, that's what's up, man. And you can pump that track more too. The next song, you can turn the track up. Yeah, man. Yo, that's tight. We're gonna dissect that right there. I was telling Kim and Kid about the one, and you said nothing about that. Down, that up.
Yeah.
Down, that up. So I know we all record sometimes at different places. Most of us use K&M. Did you work with Kevin in his studio on this project?
I certainly did.
Okay.
I started the tracks, all the pre-production I did at home.
Right.
I did some work with Paul Frawley in his studio in Queens Village. Mm-hmm. And when I revisited the project, Kevin and I work between Philly here in New York.
Yeah.
My tracks down, and he worked with it from there.
Right.
As you know, he's a great producer, man.
Yo, I know. That's believe me, he's the go-to guy. You know, he's the go-to guy. He does.
He's one of the guys that I've known him so long. I mean, we were in a jazz fusion band back in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Like musically, I can start a sentence and he'll finish it.
Right.
We're connected like that.
Yeah, him and I talk about you all the time. I was telling you when I called you last week, man, we was talking about like what you do and how you do it. Nobody can do that, you know. Believe me, nobody can do that, and that's from the heart, you know. Because he'll say, "Oh, play something like that," and he'll give you like a phrase or a guide from, play something that would be behind Aretha Franklin or something, and you'll just know. You know, where do you think that comes from? Besides your gift of genius guitars and musicianship, where do you think all of that comes from? What kind of music did you grow up really listening to and performing?
Wow, I listened to so much.
Uh-huh.
I listened to everything like guitar influences were obviously Jimi Hendrix, Carlos Santana, Tony Maiden from Rufus.
Yes.
Hiram Bullock, who was an incredible guitarist.
Oh, God, yes. Yeah.
Curtis Mayfield.
Yeah.
The rhythm concept was unbelievable, man.
Yeah, Curtis was a pure genius, you know.
And then we had the P-Funk camp, Mike Hampton, Eddie Hazel, Glenn Goins, and who am I missing? I'm missing somebody.
Blackbird.
Yeah, Blackbird. So, you know, all of those guys are influencing also.
Yeah.
Music-wise, the classic cats like Sly and the Family Stone, which I really got a lot of influence from. Sly was the man.
Yeah.
And then following that, Graham Central Station was the real first live concert that had an impact on me. After GCS, I said, this is how music is supposed to be performed live.
Yes.
Strong, powerful, energetic, in your face, unapologetic, man.
Yes.
Like, if you're going to come to the stage, come like that.
Yes. You know, it's funny because even though, and you're right, even though I'm like a P-Funk head for sure, P-Funk wasn't my first concert. My first concert that you talk about, that first one that really impacts you.
Yeah.
My first one that impacted me was Mandrill. At the old Felt Forum, I saw Mandrill, you know, and I was never the same. And like you, I said, that's how you're supposed to come. You know what I'm saying? They had the burlap bags thrown over all the amps. The stage looked like, you know, this whole burlappy type hippie, like, hey, we just in the back of the truck type thing. But Mandrill was and then obviously, you know, I got into Funkadelic, and then it was a wrap. But I like how you phrase that, because if you were talking to a young musician with all of the stuff that's out and so many choices and so many, I don't want to say easy paths, but I want to say easy paths to the music that you and I have to physically play. Yeah. What would you tell them about this whole arts, crafty, musical, universal thing, you know?
Wow. Well, you know, I would first want to let them know they're at a slight disadvantage in this time, because when we grew up, there was just a lot of bands and a lot of music was happening. Musicality was very different then than now. You had music that, you know, had like real orchestration, real counterpoint. You could take Earth, Wind and Fire. You can take Kool and the Gang. You can take that stuff, and if you chart it out, it's incredible. The counterpoint is there, the harmonies, and not to mention the funk and the grooves. We came from an era where that stuff was in the music. Now it's kind of the cut and paste era, and not, like I said, you strip down the tracks. To me, every track should be danceable. Every track, you solo it, I should be able to groove to that. Yeah. I don't see that in today's music.
Nah.
It's overproduced, in my opinion. Now, you have some great songwriters and great composers.
Yeah.
that soul and that spirit that's in each track. I don't see that.
Yeah. I miss that as well. And I like how you put that, the overproduction of it, because you know what I miss? I miss hearing the little mistakes that are perfect mistakes that's in every music. You know, your Beatles, your Hendrix, your Funkadelics, your Slides, you know, Stevie stuff. You can hear it. He's like, I didn't mean to do that, but yo, it fits. Prince was a master at that. You know what I'm saying? And I miss that because, like you said, it's overdone. It's just too perfect. And nothing in this life, especially music, is supposed to be that. You know, it's supposed to be the yin and the yang of it. And that's one thing that I always appreciated about your playing. It's organic. Technically organic, I guess, is a word I would use, you know, because you know what you're doing and where everything's supposed to go. And the organic spiritual side of you puts it in the right place. That's hard. That's something you have that very few have. You know, you're in that same upper echelons of the Mike Hamptons and the Glenn Goinses and the Gary Scheiders and the Jeff Becks. You're that. You're every year that. And people obviously know that. And if they don't, you know, they know now. But they've been knowing that for years. That's why you're in such demand. Tell me a little bit about your relationship with Andre LaSalle, who I'm trying to get on the show later on. How that started.
Wow. Andre and I, we grew up in the same neighborhood in East New York, Brooklyn. And the funny thing is, like, you know, I heard about him. He heard about me, and our paths just weren't crossing. And one day, you know, I'm like playing guitar like 1:30 in the morning, and I lived on the first floor, and his face popped up in the window. And it was Andy. And he's like, he said, yo, man, is your name John? I'm like, yeah, I'm John. He's like, I'm Andy. I'm like, come on in here, man.
That sounds like him, yeah. That's what he said.
And from there, man, we locked, man. We spent a lot of time, you know, building our chops together, working on our sound together, and just being creative. And, you know, as life has it, we came full circle many years later and got to play in the Nappy Head Funk Army together, which was like unbelievable.
That was an incredible gift that you guys brought. And I met Andy in Clayton's band. I was doing drums. And remember Clayton's band with Tanya? That's how I met Andy. He was a sub. I was a sub. He just called us, and you know, we were going Deep Pocket, right? That was their band?
Yes, Deep Pocket.
Yeah, Deep Pocket. And I was doing drums. I didn't know anybody. And him and I were the first two at the rehearsal. So we just started vibing. And I was like, man, and we was just jamming on stuff, you know, and I was like, yo, you sweet. I was like, you playing with your thumb? That's amazing. I only some other cat in my life ever do that. I was like, you thumb guy? You got a pick guy? He's like, nah, thumb. And him and I vibe. And then again, that universal love, man. And you know, he came in and was doing the thing, and you know, so you know, it's just I've been blessed. You know, you text me one day, and we was talking last year, and I was kind of down, and I want people to know this man. I could always reach out to him to lift my spirits. And you said, man, you got a plethora of funk cats around you.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, you're right. I do have access. No, you said I have access to it. But yeah, man. So tell us about this next song. You know, and you can, again, we're here, you know, Funk Music with Zack on IBM.TV on this beautiful Sunday morning. John is gracious enough to spend time with us from Queens, New York. And, you know, tell us a little bit more about the Groovalicious project, this second track that you're going to play for us.
Okay, the second track I'm going to play, this I would say is, this is going to be like Munchies for Your Love.
Oh,
okay. So
please turn it up. Turn it up.
For the 4Ks, you know exactly what I'm talking about when I give you that description, man.
That's good enough. And you know, yeah. So tell us, what inspired that?
Wow. Okay. What inspired it? I tell you, my wife inspired that.
I thought of it, but I didn't want to say. Joan is beautiful. Yeah.
During the pre-production phase, I was writing some stuff, and I actually recorded the lead guitar track, one take, in the bedroom while she was laying there sleeping.
Oh man!
And so the muse factor doesn't come any tighter than that, man. You know.
Yo.
And that's how that happened. I asked her to write me a letter describing how we met in our first date. And she took.
I know how you met.
Yeah, right.
Go ahead.
She wrote me a letter, and the guitar solo was the answer to the letter. So,
yo, I got to tell you, 2 weeks ago I had Vanessa Bartholomew and Emeril Harris on, and we were talking about their love connection. I said, man, y'all are like the MPLS Ashford and Simpson, but you guys are like the New York Ashford and Simpson, man, because I'm just in awe of how much you guys actually care for each other. And I don't mean that in no bad way, bro. I just know, and I was at your wedding. So, it's beautiful. I love that story. That's a classic. All of this stuff is recorded and stored. So one day I'm going to pull that out 10 years from now and show you this on IBM.TV. Here we are with John Willis. For you guys out there on YouTube and you guys on Facebook, check this brother out. Where can they find your project at and your new music at?
Okay. It's the CD itself has a release date of July 14th.
Woohoo!
It'll be available on Apple Music, iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, basically all the distribution sites.
Cool.
You guys can also find it at my home website, which is thegroovaliciousproject.com. And just in case you're wondering the spelling, that's GROOVALIC.
Yeah, I keep ER. My bad.
Yeah, that's okay.
My bad.
So it's thegroovaliciousproject.com. The Groovalicious Project at Facebook page. Also the Groovalicious Project at herenow.com.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So that's beautiful, man. It's so good to see your smiling face, man. I'm just like having all of these plethora of emotions, bro. I'm going through it, but it just does my heart good. Your new music is awesome. What you do is awesome. You're a beautiful human being, man. So hit us with the name of this next track. Munchies?
No, the actual name of it is The Butterfly Effect.
Butterfly Effect.
The Butterfly.
I like that. Okay, and turn the track up, bro.
Okay, you got it. Hang tight.
Yo, off the hook. Oh my God. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Thank you, bro. You're too kind.
Too kind. Oh my goodness. Off the hook. The butterfly. What did you say? The butterfly?
The butterfly effect.
The butterfly effect. Yo.
Yeah.
Yo. Off the hook. Yo, I'm wearing my New York stuff for you today, but I got and my Queens. So what? Yeah. Yo, brother. Words. I got goosebumps. You can see. Yo, I ain't kidding. I got it. There they are. See I got goop. Yo, I'm sitting here sweating. I'm like, let me tell you. First of all, the song itself, the title is insane, and the bottom, the groove is just sitting there, and I can see how you portrayed your feelings for your wife in that song, in that solo. Oh my goodness, that's such a beautiful, beautiful thing, man, and I can see that like going straight to the top of every chart, everywhere, wherever, all around the world. The beautiful part about shows like this and the other venues that you're going to be on, your music covers everything. That song can be everywhere, It can be everywhere, man. That whoo, my goodness. I know right now you're that feeling inside, but I can see in the corner of my eye Kevin over there smiling somewhere. I can feel him. Yeah. He ain't even here. He's in Philly. I'm in North Carolina. I can feel that pride thing, man. You guys should be extremely proud. You, first of all, should be extremely proud of what you're doing with your music and just that sound. That sound. That's you. Nobody's doing that on this planet. Ever will, ever has, ever will. That style. I am. I got so many emotions to talk about that music and that drive and that track, because the title and how you said it came about. When you was laying it down, you said you put that solo that down in one take. Yeah, that was one take. Usually, and I actually had planned to go into the studio and re-record it. It was a reference track. And what you hear on the CD was the first take, done in the bedroom. Do not change that. There was so many moments like that during this whole project where I'm like, okay, here's the pre-production tracks.
and I'm ready to re-record things. And quite often, producer and engineer was like, "Why would you change that, man? I think it's just the way it is."
I know, because I'm listening to it, and I was picturing you like laying there. I'm like, okay, there's been stories of cats that's done stuff like that. And the story of James Jamerson laying on his back playing Marvin Gaye, what's going on after he was, coming home from a late night. And I'm trying to picture you just doing that. And I'm like, man, that's divine. That's nothing but divinity right there. The funk guys and the man upstairs said, listen, boom. I want you to play this for me. You playing that for him. That track ain't for none of us. I heard like how you moaned for Eddie Hazel in there and Hendrix. I heard that. I heard how you paid your little signature amateurs to the cats that you just mentioned before, and still put yourself into it. Because I heard it. It's like, that's all groove. That's like, oh my God. I'm shook up for the rest of the day, bro. I'm shook up. I'm shook up. Where do I go from there? I want to hear it again.
You're too kind, bro. You're too kind.
I want to hear it again. I'm shook. It's like you come on one of them records and you be like, oh man, play that first song. When we was back in the day with the record player, play that again. Yeah. Like the first time I heard Earth, Wind & Fire Power, I must have played it like 10 times in a row. God bless you.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. So this project, tell us a little more about it.
Okay, excuse me. Wanted to put together a CD that, like in the old days where you get your album, you put the needle on the record and just let it play through the tracks. I wanted to put something on that in such a way that it's a journey, it's a musical journey. And it starts off smooth and then it just rides through. The first 3 tracks are smooth jazz, mostly. Then, I do 2 a.m., which introduces a little of the funk element. Then my son Kyle wrote a track on the CD as well.
He played bass. Okay. And he played bass on the track?
Yeah, he played bass on the track, and he wrote the thing.
I love it. I told you he was welcome to be in the band. I didn't really mind. I know he's ready. You told me he was ready.
He's
wow.
Ready. He did bass on the CD, but he's really a guitarist.
Yes, Kevin told me that. Yeah.
Yeah. We sit here, we're mashing it up, and he's just sitting here playing guitar and playing stuff that I can't play.
Yo, he got it from you though. He got it from you. I know. I seen him. I seen him watching you play, so I know.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. That's an amazing thing to have. Besides the musical gift you have this plethora of love around you, bro. And it illuminates you. It does, man. And you went through something a couple of years ago, that was touching that, I gave you a lot of credit and strength and courage for, and you overcame a certain, cancer that you had. And tell me at that moment, how serious was it with that interacting in your music career?
Oh, well, it had to be just put on hold. Had to focus on the health. And musically, I wasn't doing anything, but the music family reached out to me at key points, man. When you're going through the whole chemo thing, it's a rough ride. Anyone that's done it understands it. And for me, there were moments where my spirit was low and the phone would ring, and it's one of the cats. Hey, man, I'm just checking on you. They have no idea how important and how timely those calls were that came in. You picked me back up, and gave me a restart, hit the reset button for me. And my musical family, thank goodness, is tremendous. In this business, you meet some cats, and then that kid introduce you to this cat, and then that branch reaches that branch. So it goes on. And I had a lot of, cats that reached out to me. So I had family, I had coworkers, I had musicians. So everybody, helped keep me up spiritually during that time, which is important. I've always been a positive mind. I'm like a glass half full kind of guy to begin with.
Always, yeah, man. Yep.
You know, I wake up in the morning, I'm happy every morning, you know, because I'm like, I'm up. That was an important part of my recovery. And actually, the first track on the CD was the first song I wrote once I was recovered.
Right.
Sundance. And I played that, and it felt good. I'm like, you know what? Let me just finish developing this into a full track. And it was significant, you know. I'm a Sun person. I felt good. I felt healthy again, and I got a chance to capture it in the music. So when you listen to the first track, Sundance, that's where that was coming from.
Yeah. And tell the audience again when the release date is. Those just tuning in.
Tuesday, July 14th.
Okay, that's great, man. I'm gonna make sure I bombard my page that day. I'll set a reminder for myself because you're incredible and you're a gift to this planet. You know, I'm not really from this planet. Renee Billy says awesome. She says awesome. You're getting comments on Facebook already, but yeah, you know I'm not from here, but I appreciate what I'm a hybrid, but I appreciate all the human stuff. That's how I connect with all. You notice I only connect with the best. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, the rest, I'm like, the rest of the human beings, they want to fight and argue and all this other stuff. I want to be around people like you, you know, because that keeps me uplifted, man, while I'm down here doing what I do. Mark Lee, one of the producers at IBM as well, said, you know, amazing guest, you know, there are going to be times when we're down and up, and you've been that, the glass half full guy for me. All the time, and I can't get enough of what you do, and you know we got to touch on this because it's the elephant in the room. Although you know we still got time, and you know you got another track for us, but I have to ask you, not so much the movement, but so much the solutions, because Kim, our producer, and Kevin, they have the same mindset too. They just don't know it because they're always talking about what's the solution. All right. So how do you feel, first of all, obviously as an Afro-American man making music in this country, right? And knowing that you could walk out your door, no matter what you've done creatively, you could get heard.
Wow. I tell you, it's amazing what you get acclimated to and accustomed to. You should never walk with fear, but you know, you're forced to do simple things. Like, you know, I don't keep my documents in a glove box. My documents in the car are kept in the compartment right below.
Right there. Yep, right there.
You know, and I've always, you know, I was raised to be a polite individual and try to be articulate and immediately differentiate yourself from the preconceived notion, the guy that they're always putting on the 6 o'clock news. You know, try to establish that immediately when I encounter anyone of authority. You know, so you deal with me, not the image or what's portrayed. And I kind of pass that on to my sons, pass it on to my students, as a matter of fact. You know, survival 101 in the world of today. You know, how to carry yourself, how to interact with law enforcement individuals. Now, in terms of solutions, I don't claim to have any solutions. I mean, to me, all this is simple. Life is simple. You treat people the way you want to be treated, and all this goes away. And, you know, you stop thinking about the differences in people and start thinking about the similarities. If I don't know you and I want to approach the conversation, it's from a position of what do we have in common, not the obvious differences. I mean, you turn out the lights, all the obvious differences disappear. We have nothing left but to find out what we have in common, you know, and that's the real solution. And without getting like, you know, super political or, you know, trying, it's America has a long-term problem. It's a long-seated problem. And nothing's going to change overnight. Nothing's going to change without much strife. Historically, we know nothing's changed easily in America. It's going to take work.
Yeah.
And it's going to take some camaraderie.
Yeah.
It really is. And I always have this that I share with everyone, and this is the beauty of music. I always say we need to put emphasis on the things that we share, things we like together. We all can take a room full of people who don't speak the same language, who have no cultural things in common, and you know what they'll all do? They'll do this to the music, man, in sync.
Yep.
That's right. A common thread right there.
Yep.
No words spoken. And you've seen it at shows where you hit the groove in the concert and you look at somebody, you don't even know the person, but you're there, you're like, yeah, we're feeling that. To me, that's the magic of music, man.
Yeah.
It's the universal language that's second to none, man.
Yeah. Yo, what you said is so deep and poetically said so smoothly. And I like, there's a song in there somewhere when you said turn out the lights and all our differences. I'm taking note because that's the song right there. Turn out the light. Because like you said, musically, we're just, and being musicians and artists, especially from New York, we're like, well, if you can play, you can play. White, black, Puerto Rican, Spanish, mixed, don't matter, And I think that's one of the gifts I tell people all the time. I'm so blessed to be able to do this thing because the people that I've met, it opened, as a kid, you're in the first band in school, you're playing with different people. The band with the band, playing whatever. It didn't matter the color. It was like, what instrument are you?
Yeah, exactly.
Didn't matter what color, and like you said, man, we're in a long-term fix. But the beauty is, Kayla and Maya, 12 and 16 now, your nieces. So they're pretty big now. And their generation is going to hold it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I've been out at a few of the protests and watching the rainbow come together. Mm-hmm. And I think, okay, we didn't turn the corner, but at least we're approaching the corner, And as long as you and I can be here to keep this funk music alive, it'll rub off on a few of them, and maybe they'll get it. Maybe they'll get it, man. It's amazing. Again, here we are, Funk Music with Zack live, 12 p.m. on IBM.TV. John Willis, he's been like an amazing guest. We got some more time to spend with him. We got one more song that he's going to do, and we've talked about a lot of stuff. You can get into it. You guys can always go back on IBM.TV and follow it, YouTube, Facebook Live. It'll be there. Just look it up. Super Sunday. Is the whole show, and then I got my little segment. And believe me, this is just the first of many for you. So just prep your mind for that. Prep your mind for that. I just want to keep you prepped. Eric J just put out something. Did you play on that? Stay on Code. Did you do that project?
No, I didn't. Mm-mm.
Okay. Yeah, I was interested because I'm trying to get him on to come on, and I he texted me the other day and he's like going to come on, but I was trying to figure out how all of us could get together and just improv something, you know what I mean? And I'm working on that, like Kevin Philly, you there, Prez where he is, because we kind of might need to try and give that a stab at some point too, but I'm working on it. I'll keep you posted on that.
You know what? Something might already be in the works because, the last session I did with Prez up in Newburgh, after we finished the session, I said, roll the tape, man. So I'm going to give you some funk for nothing. And we'll just roll the track.
I like that, funk for nothing.
Oh, yeah. And he said, oh, man, that's a whole nother track. So we need to take that track and pass it around, let everybody put something on it and see what comes of it. And I really think that's a great idea, a great way to do it.
For sure. And you know what? For that, I'll drive to Philly to get with Kev in his place. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not contagious or anything, and I'm healthy. And it would just be me and my car there and back. So when we're ready to make that happen, let me know and then tell me what y'all want me to do, and I'll be more than happy, man, because that'd be so sweet. That'd be so sweet. It's amazing to see your face again. You have no idea how happy I am. Such a beautiful spirit, man. You are. So tell us about this next track, this last one you're gonna play for us, man.
Okay.
Name and
This track was co-written along with me by Nancy McDuffie.
Okay.
And we wrote this track a long time ago. And the fact that it still feels good means it's timeless and it's worth it's worth a spot on the CD.
Yeah.
The tune is "Don't Burn Me Out," and it's made for the working man.
Yeah. So who is Nancy? Who is she?
Nancy McDuffie. Wow. Nancy is she is like the quadruple threat. She's done plays. She's a songwriter. She's done TV. She's just incredibly.
I know the name. Yeah, I know the name. Yeah,
she's part of KM Entertainment.
Okay. Yeah.
She's also done music videos.
Okay.
She does it all.
Okay, yeah. Now it's because you know me with names. I'm like, I go by a nickname. That's why, for me, my memory shot. So everybody that I know, and now I'm putting the two together. I get where she was done, and I'm trying to get Kevin the wear it out so we can finish doing what we're doing with our video stuff. But that's another subject. But yeah, so cool. I'm anxious to hear it. So you guys co-wrote this song.
Yeah. A long time ago, we co-wrote it.
What's the name of it?
Don't Burn Me Out.
Don't Burn Me Out. Gotcha. Yeah. Don't Burn Me Out. All right. So give us a little bit of Don't Burn Me Out, man.
Okay.
Don't spare it.
Okay. Okay.
Do you? I love it. John Willis right here live on IBM.TV, yo. The man's amazing guitarist and spiritual human being and teacher and father and husband.
Sorry about that. Trying to get it together here.
Take your time, bro. Ain't no rush, man. I'm going to give you the whole screen. Like, I love to see everything when you're doing it. So go for it. Yes, that was John Groovalicious Willis, doing his thing, the Groovalicious project. Definitely one of my favorite guitar players of all time to work with, to be involved with, as well as all his personal things that he does, and family man and brother and, father and, teacher of the arts. So very, very much so, we've been vibing together for many, many years, John and I. And we also actually have worked on several projects together, worked in several bands together. We played for many, many years on that New York funk circuit when Wetlands and CBGBs and, the Izzy Bar and the Red Lion and Lions Den and all that stuff was out. And I'll tell you a quick story. We was playing, John wasn't in the band, and he actually came to the second Nappy Head show. And we were still raw, just learning everything. And I was trying to build the band, and he was standing in the audience. And we played a song called Alice in My Fantasies by Funkadelic. So John was on the side of the stage. And the keyboard player I was using, his name is Eric Wilson. We called him Pearl. He was like, yo, John wants to play, so I didn't invite him up. But what I did is the next time we had a rehearsal, I said, yo, why don't you come to the rehearsal? So he came to the rehearsal, and I heard him play like 5 seconds. And I was like, you're in. It was no doubt about it. I was like, you're in, and he dug it because Pearl, the keyboard player, William Bush, Prez, Kevin Harrington, John Willis, Andre LaSalle, John Purvis. They all came from that New York City funk rock coalition, and they all were part of the Vernon Reid Black Rock Coalition that Vernon Reid and Ronnie Drayton and all them were doing. So we're going to see if we can get John back on for a hot second, just so we could say, goodbye to him. But, it's like if John were a car, he would be a Maserati. If he was a basketball player, he'd be like Dr. J or Michael Jordan. He's just that good at everything he does. Some people you meet and, they have talent and they can do a lot of things. And then you meet these people that, like he said, he played the song laying back in his bed. How do you do that? That's divinity right there. You know what I mean? And just to think, the thought process of how you create music and how we create this stuff. All musicians have their own way. And I always use the analogy, like if you're in a factory and somebody dips you in chocolate and you get some of the funk, but then sometimes the funk gods just take the whole bucket and dump it onto you, like they did with Prince, Stevie Wonder, people like that, George Clinton, Bootsy, of course. They just dump it on. And John was there when they dumped it on. You know what I mean? Me, I might have got dipped in, but some cats are just so talented, literally he could play the song in his sleep because that's what he did. He was laying down. And that, to me, I love that story. Incredible story. You can follow us, Funk Music with Zack, every Sunday on IBM.TV at IBM Music. And it's called Super Sundays. The whole show's phenomenal. Beautiful kids shows. People from Africa and Asia and all around the world are checking it out every Sunday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, right here, Funk Music with Zack. We're always going to have special guests on. We're always going to, try to enlighten you with the positive affirmation. We're always going to try to uplift and promote what we do here at IBM.TV. And that's very important. There's always shows going on. T-Funk says, hello, John. T-Funk says, that's my dude. Yeah, man, he's my dude too, T-Funk. I'm feeling you, brother. We're always going to try and bring you things that you wouldn't normally see or hear. And since it's uncut, it's even better because I'm just trying to get John on the line right now. Since it's uncut and it's even better, sometimes you get raw emotion mixed with creativity, mixed with spontaneity. And that's where you have something special. And John plays everything like that. He was in the studio on my project and he just did it. I wasn't even there. I just came back and was like, yo, keep that, man. Let me just see if I can get him back on just to say goodbye. And, we're going to finish talking about what he brings to the table. And if you're a musician out there and you want it and you want that feel, this is the guy to call. This is one of the guys. This is one. There's plenty of them, but do not neglect and call this guy. You won't be sorry if he's on your music. Let me just see if I can get him back in for 1 second. again, Funk Music with Zack on IBM TV. We're going to see what's going on. And, things happen sometimes when the music is getting too good.
All right, folks. Yeah, we've got some great folks here and everything. I see that Ankit's joined me and Jim has joined me. So we've got a great conversation going on. Of course, we had that special edition with Funk Music with Zack and John Willis. So he's over there doing that recovery thing and everything along those lines. But definitely it was good hearing that conversation and things of that nature. Hey, Jim, I don't know if you know this or anything, but I'm actually in the process of doing some other things as well. So today is the day of the draft pick. So some of us know that sports is going on in the world. So I've actually got my fantasy football draft going on today. So I'm doing that right now. I don't know if you ever do that or not, but I just picked up the Baltimore Ravens defense and Tom Brady. So I'm feeling good about my team so far since I've got Tom Brady for my quarterback and the Baltimore Ravens defense. I've got a couple of wide receivers and some other folks, but that's kind of what I've got going on this Sunday as well. So I don't know, Jim, do you ever play fantasy football? And is there a fantasy cricket? That's what I want to know from Ankit. Is there fantasy cricket?
You're muted, Ankit. Ankit's muted.
Ankit,
there you go.
Muted. There we go.
I am playing fantasy cricket since 20 years.
Whoa. I've been playing fantasy football for 40.
Oh, wow.
you were elder to me, so that sounds. But what I'm saying is that fantasy cricket was started, but it's not picking up that much. But now, since past couple of years, it's picked up like anything. In fact, one of the fantasy cricket, what you can say, venture, they are sponsoring one of the biggest cricketing events now. So they're picking up. But see. We are still not playing fantasy cricket as much as we play fantasy football because fantasy football is like an industry, but fantasy cricket is picking up as an industry. So we are still behind, but I'm playing it since like 2 decades. So I'm enjoying it. I just set up a team for one of the matches. So I like that game. So I'm just enjoying that.
Yeah, Ankit, if you had said you had been playing for 40 years, I would have said I'd been playing for 50. So
I'm sure you've been playing that long. You probably got a masterful team and everything, but the problem with fantasy is that none of us would know how to do or anything. I'm actually glad that we can have this conversation because I just got a email conversation going on that apparently there is, and I don't know whether it's going on in India or the rest of the world, but a friend of mine just communicated with me via Facebook that there is some major outages throughout the United States that are going on with the computers and everything. So we're actually apparently ahead of the curve with what's going on in the rest of the country because I just got an email that there was like this whole thing going on with folks that are saying that there is an outage. And Ankit's got something about it on the news and everything. So he's saying it definitely looks like it's going on all over the place.
That's baseball.
Oh, that's baseball.
Okay.
So there's a game coming up between New York Yankees and New York Mets in 4 minutes.
All right, so we got a game
between
the Yankees and the Mets.
You know which team I'm rooting for?
That would be the Yankees. So I see that that's the New York Yankees out. Wait a minute. Jim, you're in California. How are you rooting for the Yankees? You're supposed to be rooting for one of them California teams. So explain that to me.
I was born in New Haven, Connecticut. So New Haven, Connecticut got all New York stations, all New York papers. So, it's the tri-state area. So New York spreads out to northern New Jersey, southern Connecticut. Yeah. And, I grew up and my dad was a Yankee fan, so I was a Yankee fan. When I came out to California, I sort of adopted these other teams, but I stuck with the ones that I grew up with. So
first love is always the last love.
Yes, first love, last love. Yeah,
makes a lot of sense. That's the way that goes and everything. So, Ankit, when y'all do fantasy cricket, do y'all do like the different players and the defenses, or how does fantasy cricket look different than fantasy football? Like I said, we don't know anything about cricket here in North Carolina, or at least we don't know enough about it. So, explain to us how cricket might work as a fantasy sport.
So I'm not sure how to compare it, but cricket, the rules are simple. Whenever someone scores 1 run, you'll get 1 point. Whenever someone pick up a wicket, you'll get 25 points. And based on that, you win the game. But there's a lot of mathematics involved in fantasy cricket. I'm not sure about football, but in cricket, we score a lot of points. And we have a referee as well in the house today.
That's my position when I play cricket, referee.
Jim is the referee, and he's a good referee. He referees some of our conversations here on IBM TV. I've seen him do a masterful job when we've had folks that want to cause trouble, but Jim is the masterful referee.
Yeah, if you're causing good trouble, it's fine. But bad trouble, I get the uniform out.
And you got to get that uniform out and everything. So, Jim, what's going on over there with those wildfires in California? Because I know a lot of folks that are watching might be wondering about those wildfires, and I know that I've had friends that are out there in California, and they tell me that they're still raging. But if you could give us a little bit of insight as to what's happening with those wildfires.
Yeah, as of yesterday, the ones that are closest to me were 26% contained. So that doesn't sound good, but that's progress. And we get a natural air conditioning where I live because we're near the coast, and the coast comes in with a little fog, and so it cleans out the air. But right now we have a little weather pattern that's stalled, so it's not cleaning out the air like it used to. But right now the air quality is good. As the day goes on, it will become unhealthy. So that's just in my area. Further north, it's a little bit more difficult. There's not that natural air conditioning, so the smoke is just staying, and the air quality is poor. And so if you have any kind of compromised immune system, you're encouraged to stay home. Because of the COVID, obviously, you're encouraged to stay home as well. But now it's just not healthy to go out and breathe bad air that's got a lot of toxins in it. So, and further south, there are more different fires. We had this severe lightning storm come on and start all these fires. And it just, there's you can only talk, you have to kind of talk county to county as how you're dealing with it, what you have to deal with. So in the San Francisco area itself, because of the natural air conditioning, you kind of catch a little bit of a break. You go a little bit north, a little bit south. It's not so pleasant.
Wow. What kind of natural disasters are we having in India? I mean, I know that there's always people concerned globally about the COVID crisis, but I know that sometimes y'all get hit with natural disasters as well, Ankit. So is there anything going on like the wildfires in California? And of course, we had the hurricanes that were going on in Louisiana, and our thoughts are definitely with Dr. Anthony as well. But as they're trying to deal with the lights and trying to deal with power outages and all of that. But has there been any kind of weather things that y'all are dealing with in addition to what the whole world is dealing with, which is the pandemic?
So apart from pandemic, we have a lot of floods going on right now in different states because of the monsoon and because of heavy rainfall around. Somehow this time the rainfall was extended to too much in compared to the previous years, and that's why there's a lot of floods going around basically, and that's what people are struggling during the COVID. But apart from hurricanes, there are some western and eastern disturbances, but there is nothing hurricane as of now going on. But flood is what we are suffering from right now.
Well, Ankit, I was on with you when you had an earthquake.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
I think 2.5-3 months ago, there was an earthquake, and it was shaking like this basically.
Yep. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. All of a sudden, because Ankit's very cool, calm, and collected, and all of a sudden he's like this, and I'm going, "What's going on?" And it's like earthquake. Oh, Because, I associate India with monsoons, but I don't associate them with earthquakes.
But Jim, you won't believe. I mean, I think like 4 or 5 years back when there was a massive earthquake in Nepal, we have felt all the tremors basically because the earthquake happened in Himalayas belt, and that Himalayas is close to North India, and we are in Delhi. Every tremor, whatever happened, we felt everything, and there was like every second day there's an earthquake.
Yeah,
and that's why Nepal had a disaster basically, and the roads are. I mean, if you see the picture, there was it was very disturbed, but I mean, it's a nature's call, so you have to accept it and move on. That's what.
Well, Kimberly, you're the one with the invention knack, and do you have an invention like for water purification or something like that?
It's not my invention, but thank you for asking for it. It's called H2O, like H2 Hope. It was engineered by and invented by Steve Muner. People go, oh, anyone can build it. No, not the way he did. And what he engineered was amazing. So it's a solar generated device. It is in a Pelican case that looks like a suitcase. You can wheel it anywhere you want. I actually checked it onto the airlines. And the only issue was they wanted to look at the insides because it's electronics, right? So let's don't be boarding a plane. But the solar panels on the outside of the case, I'll get a picture of it. And what's interesting about this is it shipped and didn't break, right? It didn't, nothing in it broke. I had to reconnect some pipes and stuff when I got to where I was going. But what's great about it is that it will take water in at 3 gallons per minute, which is fabulous, right? You can pump water in a house at perfect water flow for that. And it not only filters and cleans the water, it has 2 filterization systems, but it sanitizes. It has the ultraviolet lamp that is WHO approved. And it will sanitize the water as well so that you're not getting any microbes into the body, such as worms and things like that come in these disasters. So it's real easy to use. The solar power runs it. It will work all day long as long as you have good sun. If you don't, you can daisy chain. This is what is unique about his product is you can daisy chain the batteries so that you can have more storage and run all night. But it's not just a water supply unit. What's great, okay, again, it's in a nice little Pelican case on wheels, right?
Right.
It's a power unit. So you can power up emergency supplies like things in an emergency vehicle for IVs or any battery operated testing. You can be charging these all day long. He actually engineered several charging units in there as well. You can run the fans to help people keep cool. You can... And I showed something one day. I was on my back porch, right? And so I took a pot of water, a big container of water, and I was running it constantly through the pump system at 3 gallons per minute. I took a fan and was running it because it was a hot day, right? And I had my computer powered into it and a couple of other things just to show all the different things you can do with it.
That's amazing.
On an interesting flip side note, when we had a tornado, and all of our power was knocked out. It happened to be my son's birthday, and I felt bad because I wanted to finish cleaning the house and baking the cake for him. So rather than using the gas power generator, which I don't like because of the fumes, the noise, and things like that, I powered that in and used it to do the things that I needed to do that day. So it's a unique device for whatever reason. Nobody wants to buy it. They want people to just build it and give it away, and it costs money. It's a $2,300 with solar panels that work. It's a $2,300 per unit project, but it works. And we have several prototypes. I have one, and it works. So, but yeah, it's beautiful. If I could share,
when you get these hurricane things, because the water can be impure. And so the drinking water is affected as is the power, the electricity, and all of that. So solar power would be necessary, and making the water drinkable would be necessary.
Exactly. The impurity is what's and what we could do just to add to it for emergency situations like this with FEMA or Red Cross is we can throw in a tester, right? So just to make sure that the water coming out is purified and tested for drinking. we also have it so that the system is split, right? So you might not want to waste your filters on a lot of water that you're using to clean things or just processing water to do other things, right? So we take and separate the filter system so that you can just pump water and use it for other things, like I don't know what, but we did that, right?
I just want to take a second to introduce Fatima because if we're pumping water, she's looking good while she's doing it. And Junghua, thank you for joining our shows.
Yeah.
The two of you. And
thank you for doing that real quick.
Spectacular today. So well done. I saw you on another show and you're now looking really good. So I just wanted to introduce the two of you to our show and see if you have any horror stories to tell us about emergency situations, evacuations, which is happening in Northern California because of the fires. We're also talking about poor Louisiana and the surrounding areas that are being hit by hurricanes. So anything you got that you could tell us about?
All is well here in Durham, North Carolina.
Okay. Two thumbs up for Durham. How about you, Junghua?
Yeah, so I have friends who have been re-evacuated, and yesterday people are going back to Carmel Valley in Monterey. So we have several fires around us,
Right.
and homes have been burnt down in Tassajara in the mountains near Big Sur in Carmel Valley. So a lot of people are having to restock their refrigerator, which has the power's been out for 4 days.
Right.
And that's why we have a generator. We live in a forest by the ocean. So because of all the storms and PG&E's brownouts, we've been in that situation before where we haven't had any power for 4 days. So I have a small generator that's solar driven, and I just plug it into the wall, charge it during the year so that when I need it, I can power up my refrigerator or a cell
How's
phone.
your air quality?
So the air quality is still a little bit ashy. I wear a K95, and I bike every morning when it's dark, so I can see with my high beam on my bike that there's still particulates in the air. There's also a lot of invisible particulates, which are extremely damaging. So a lot of people are just outside, exercising without masks. And I would say that in the morning, all of the wind pushes the fresh air towards the valleys and towards inland California.
Right,
and then
same
comes
here.
back out, right, in the evening. So we just have to be mindful. I use air purifiers all the time and try to be mindful of using alternative energies.
Right. And Carmel
Appreciate that,
Valley,
Junghua.
by you, that's got to be having problems with the air quality because that's getting all that stuff that's over you temporarily is getting swept to them.
Yeah, so I saw it jump from, normally our area is about 8 in terms of air quality or below. That's why I moved here from San Francisco, because there was too much pollution in the urban areas.
Yes.
And it jumped to like 500, which is significant. So that's on par with China and Korea and places like that. And so I think Carmel Valley in some cases has been worse than Fresno and the Central Valley of California,
Wow.
which traditionally has had a lot of asthma, pretty bad pollution. But now a lot of valley areas in the more coastal areas of California are being hit too.
Right. Mark, you had something you wanted to say.
No, just going to add really quickly to your introduction and everything, because I know that we've been talking to a number of folks about trying to get different kinds of shows on the IBM TV network and everything. So Junghua is definitely one that is into the mental health field. My friend Fatima is actually into style and fashion and things of that nature. So I wanted to introduce Fatima to Kim. Kim is one of our leading folks in terms of putting this incredible network together and everything. So I just wanted y'all to know who folks are, because Kim is definitely a leader in this great community of folks that are putting together and trying to unify all of us, because one of the things that she always talks about is unity and how we need to be unified, but also celebrate our diversity. And I know that that's one of the things that even Fatima does in some of her fashions, is that she does celebrate some of the ways that we are diverse in our population, and in terms of even some of the clothes and things that she does when she's modeling and when she's doing special events. So I just wanted to have Fatima talk a little bit about how we can celebrate our culture even in our styles and things along those lines. So that's why I wanted to have Fatima in this conversation, as well as she might have some thoughts on the whole Black Lives Matter things that are going on in the country. So that's what I was going to do, is I was going to introduce Fatima and have her make some comments on that. So I'm turning it over to you now, Fatima.
Well, I just joined in, so I'm just really wanting to listen in more to see where it is that I can chime in, and if you can give me a few moments to gather my thoughts.
Okay, Fatima. And I want to tell you that Kimberly is usually dressed up, and she's in casual mode today, so don't judge her.
Casual Sunday.
I can't hear you, Kim.
Don't
You're
mind.
Mute.
So
I'm muted.
I want to be judged today. This is a very big fashion statement. Today is the 30th. And every month of the 30th, I wear this in memory of Sergeant Daniel Baker, who perished at the hands of a murderer. He stopped to help what he thought was a car. He found out that the car was stolen. The person behind the wheel of the car was actually a known felon for domestic violence. So it kind of enveloped everything that I was trying to support at the time. His body cameras show that he tried to help the guy behind the wheel, and the guy killed him. So, it didn't need to happen. He was not a bad cop. He was there to help. He was, beyond extraordinary. But every day of the 30th, every 30th day, I wear
Good for you.
In memory of him. My sister does the same. She is a victim of domestic violence as well. And when I told her why I was wearing it, it wasn't just the fact that the person murdered him. So, but it's also saying, let's unify people. Let's work together to help solve these problems so that crimes don't happen like this. They don't have to. So, so this is my fashion statement of the month. So if you want to judge me, that's fine. But I'm doing it because I have a mission to make a change for quality of life everywhere. And that's what I want to do. I want to build, not burn down, not tear, not destroy, not kill.
Good for you, Kimberly.
You have to do that. But I want to share something with you guys. I'm so excited. So if you would allow me to share, Mark, I want to share with you that the generator I was telling about, because I heard that Genoa uses a generator. I use a gas generator too. I live out in the country and we keep them for emergencies. In fact, my home is considered the place to go to when all other homes lose their power. But here we go, folks. I'm going to share with you my screen. Can you allow me to share my screen? There we go.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see if I can do, because this is the invention I was telling you about.
What an amazing invention.
Right? I mean,
that was just amazing, no doubt about that. And we got so many people that are talking about tiny homes and getting involved in tiny homes. So an invention like that really would come in handy and everything. So definitely that's got to be commended, that invention. I did want to just come back really quickly to Fatima, because actually one of her passion interests is actually what you're interested in, Kimberly, because she has actually done fashion shows that have been around domestic violence and in support of folks that have gone through that. So could you talk to us a little bit about how you have been a advocate for those that have been abused by domestic violence and have used fashion for that? Because I know that that's one of your passions as well, Fatima.
Oh, absolutely. One of my number one platforms is violence awareness. And I actually have a group that I put together, being a retired model, but still in the fashion industry. I have a group called Models and Actors United, and it is exactly what it sounds like. Models that I've worked with in the past, actors that I've worked with, we come together and we put on skits. And skits the skits are violent in nature, or it depicts violence. So what happens is we do about 12 different scenarios that are all true to life. I mean, it's, sad that we are still living in a day and time where we have to bring this in the limelight and put it in the forefront, but it's real. And so we do not dumb it down, because to not talk about it, to stay silent, and for people not to see it visually, it doesn't do any justice, and things will never change. So what we do is I give them scenarios. It can be, male, female scenario about a woman coming home and finding their husband's cell phone, and I'm going through it and seeing inappropriate behavior. And then, of course, an argument ensue, and that can turn into a domestic violence situation. It can be something where the man been working all day and he comes home and there's no dinner cooked, and then he wants to argue about it, and then that's another situation that may result in violence. We have another one where the woman goes shopping and she spends, a lot of the money, and the husband gets upset about it, and again, that's another reason why he feels like he wants to put his hands on her. And then we flip it as well. We have female, the men aren't always the perpetrators. So we also have females, there's a scenario when the man comes home with something on his neck, presumably a hickey, and she confronts him. And now it's the flip side of what happens when that occurs. And we don't hold any punches. We don't physically fight, but it is a nonverbal skit. Is called Not That Girl. But you truly understand and you see exactly what's happening. And the reason why there isn't any verbiage, because we have a recording artist. Her name is Ashley Marshall out of Raleigh, North Carolina. And she actually sings her original song called Not That Girl. So she was a victim at one point in time in her life, and she wrote a song about it. And so the Not That Girl skit is based on Ashley Marshall's song, Not That Girl. And she's just telling everybody that, she's not that girl anymore, and she's not going to take it. And so I decided to utilize Models and Actors United to do the nonverbal acting out while she performs live. And it is so powerful. We do it for churches. We do it for community events. It's amazing. And it's so powerful. It's about a 15-minute production. And then afterwards, we all line up and we have a slogan that says, "We are Models and Actors United, taking a stand to break the silence about domestic violence." And I would like to get that out in as many platforms as I can. We typically do it around October, Domestic Violence Awareness Month. But as we know, it happens, daily. I need to get it out as often as possible. And after the production, we all share a tidbit, 15, 20, 30 seconds about domestic violence. So it could be something personal. It could be a statistic, but the overall goal obviously is, if you're in a situation, to find a way out and get help, and just literally just don't do it. keep your hands to yourself, and it's not good on for instance, for anybody to cause anybody any physical harm to one another. So that's very near and dear to my heart, and it has been very successful. We've had a plethora of people that have seen themselves in those situations, and have, come up and shared with us how it's happened to their mother, sister, family member, friend. And it's just very powerful. And again, I hate to have to, depict violence, but we have to do that because some people don't believe anything until they see it. And then, the visual aspects of it, it really does hit home, and it is very powerful. And I still, to this day, and I've been doing it for about 11 years, I get touched and emotional each and every time. I mean, how can you not? So,
Right.
Yeah.
I am so, my heart just, you have no idea what I have fought for since 2010 when I started my invention. And I want to share one more thing, Mark, if you'll pop it up. Here are your statistics, and they've become worse this year. 12 million female victims a year. That's 26 per minute. Okay. Oh. We turn our heads to it every day. That's 1/4 of the female population. You can double that number for children and 1/2 that number for males. Okay. I know these inside and out, and I'm sure you do too. All right. And we don't do anything about it. The only person who stepped up to the plate to do bills for victims,
Joe Biden. He
wrote the first bill in 1997, and he is the only one who has continued to push it to help it grow and expand so that we can protect victims of domestic violence. Joe Biden did this, nobody else. And every president, after he did that, would sign the bill and help support it with funding until Trump. And Trump cut the funding. Does not make Trump a bad man. I'm not going to say anything bad about him. I'm sure he had his reasons. But what I'm saying is that the funding got cut this year. Are you in North Carolina, Fatima?
I am, Durham, North Carolina.
So we need to connect. I have done several marches. I get aggravated because the police get mad at victims of domestic violence because they say, well, it's hard to help them because they always go back. But they go back because it's easier to face the person of violence than to risk with that stupid protective order. By the time you're aware that order is being violated, it's too late moment. And there's plenty of those 911 calls where, and I don't know if you're aware of this, but if you're a victim and you have a restraining order, you have to carry that restraining order in your possession at all times. How stupid is that? What stupid person wrote this law? I want them on my judge. I want to be their judge. Who would write a law like this, that if that woman does not have this in her hand, she won't receive help? So when she calls 911, she has to read to them her protective order to validate it. What idiot writes these kind of laws? Okay. So you have time to do that. So this is what I told my sister. Do not call and say you're a victim of domestic violence and being chased. You call and you scream, I'm having a heart attack, and start panting, because a fire truck will come, an EMT will come, and a police officer will come. Do not call and tell them you're a victim of domestic violence, because you're going to have to go through all of this. They're going to have to dispatch 2 police officers together, which is very difficult to find. And I'm sorry to get angry, but people, this is the reality of the world we live in. Okay. And so I would always tell her, don't just call and say, help, I'm happy, because an officer will come faster. A fire truck will come faster if you're having a heart attack than if you're fighting for your life in domestic violence. See, you guys know. Yeah.
Jean-Noir, did you have something you wanted to add in the sense of, like, from the mental health and the that kind of perspective?
Yeah, sure. And I just want to thank Fatima and Kim for talking about this, because domestic violence is 1 in 4 at least. I have a friend who's actually on the Human Trafficking Council in California, and she battles constantly with people in her department and the agencies that work with them in a very diplomatic way. There's actually a lot of corruption within the system of people who are abusers, re-traumatizing people who are victims. So first of all, a lot of the people in this area are victims of abuse, and domestic violence is quite common, especially in Asian communities. And she's Caucasian, but she's also married to someone of Mexican descent. So people of color, a lot of it is cultural misogyny related. And there's such a lack of support and services and education around this that we really need to buckle down and raise awareness, because it's related to so many other issues with regards to children and parenting.
You know, with my invention, and I became more outward spoken and going to smart city projects and trying to enforce a lot of the laws to get the invention out. To help reduce the fatality rates. That's my invention, is more about reducing recidivism. Through my journey, I met if you know of any, I've met a lot of victims first off. And men would come up to me after the meetings and just tell me their stories. They're horrifying. So not just women people, but I will tell you this, when I get a phone call and somebody's crying and saying, my daughter's a victim, or my somebody I know, my friend's a victim, what do? I tell them up front, take all the money you have, pack up and go to High Point, North Carolina. They have zero tolerance for domestic violence. They break every law in the country, and they have reduced recidivism crimes to zero. And the way they did this is the police department bullies the bully. If they violate the order in any way, that guy is thrown up against the wall. The men or women who are offenders and decide to continue living in the town, right? They have to go to a weekly and monthly meeting, one weekly meeting with an officer. So this is utilizing a lot of resources, but it's working. And then every month they have to go to a town hall meeting, kind of like confessing their sins, and in public. So public humiliation has cleaned up their crime. Public humiliation.
That's awesome. I mean, that could be applied to so many situations. With regards to the orders, because in California, and Gavin DeBecker actually talked about this, he studies violence. He actually protects high-value victims or potential victims. He said that, because this is based on his own experience with his own mother, that getting an order is actually a red flag for abusers that can create a situation that imperils victims mortally. So what is your thoughts on that?
I agree. The protective order, because the system, the policies are not written to be enforced very well, though Joe Biden continues to push for that. There's no means to enforce it. Okay. There's no means to, in most cases when it's violated, it's going to be he said, she said. So, and anytime you have somebody of that anger level, and they've been arrested, when you release them, there's no stages of releasing. Maybe send them to a coffee shop, talk with somebody to calm them down. They just release them. And it is gasoline on a fire at that moment. And it becomes more volatile. I have seen situations where, a protective order also states that they may not have any firearms. The people will go straight from the prison to a friend's house, get a firearm, and immediately go over. Immediately, within the first 48 hours, they will have violated their order with a worse crime. And so, yes, I agree. If people had the money to hire a what I call a Minuteman or a private security, but it's still dangerous. It's still dangerous because they will not only go after the person that they're intended to go after, they're going to go after the whole family and anyone in their way. That's why it's the most dangerous crime an officer's dispatched for. And if you looked at the postcard I put up, it's also the most expensive crime in our country.
And what kind of resources are available, maybe where you are? Because I know a lot of people here who are victims have no money, right? They're trying to escape from their.
See, the resources were cut when Trump took office. So if you go look at it, yes, and Kit.
No, first finish up and then I'll comment on the topic.
No, I did. The resources are very limited because they've been reduced. So go ahead.
Well, I'm just trying to looking for a solution because domestic violence happens after generally when someone is committed to a relationship or after marriage. But before that, if we can have some kind of a due diligence for match partner, something like that, because we have a lot of dating apps and those are very popular apps. But no one talks about due diligence and no one talks about a person's behavior before in the young age and things like that. So suppose if I want to meet someone and if I know that person's behavioral aspects since like 20 years, I would be able to judge that person easily. And I think privately and with government we can create some kind of data and facts, and also we can add a medical history on that, because once you have a behavioral and medical history, you can easily judge that person. And after that, if something happened, that could be a different issue or a ballgame, because some people often change their lifestyle post wedding or post engagement or things like that. But I think if we can create an app or something like that, which will.
It's actually created by Gavin de Becker. He wrote a whole book about it, and it's called Mosaic, MOSAIC. It's a profiler so that women can go online. They can just answer the simple questions, and they can see if it'll give you the results, right, in black and white, what risk you are in for domestic violence.
But Kim, if we can start, progressing and working on that app universally, so that people will able to use it and join it, because whenever there's an app or technology, if there is no data, if we are not doing the data analysis, the technologies won't be able to work it out properly. So we have to create an ecosystem and add a lot of elements to it, and then only people can use it and start finding the right.
So what I'm talking about is a level of collecting data on what I call the science fiction matrix, right? And you can only go so deep into the mentality.
But Kim, I'll tell you one more interesting thing. I mean, whenever we have a wedding in India, you know about Indian fat weddings and all this stuff. We used to have a matchmaking process where we use horoscope and match both the profiles and see how many points they are in a good points or bad points. I mean, so they all are Sanskrit and Hindi words. I don't want to take those words because no one will understand, but it's kind of a matchmaking kundli, and based on that, based on that they decide. But on top of that, nowadays a lot of people are also, apart from matchmaking the kundlis, they're also matchmaking their heredity or medical conditions from past 5 generations, just to know that what kind of disease they can collectively conquer and pass on to your people and things like that. So I mean, if we are ready to matchmake a kundli and if we are ready to matchmake a medical history, why can't we also matchmake a behavioral stats? That's what I wanted to say.
And that's the whole concept behind Korean genetics too, because in South Korea we have a very long history. I mean, like our family's records go back thousands of years just for that reason, so that we can avoid hereditary diseases.
Well, and I want to add a little bit to this. There's a psychological situation that goes on as well with domestic violence. And, where they keep talking about the women always going back. Sometimes some women think that they have no other choice. Can you share this little thing that I have that I want to share? You guys have to understand, I embedded my whole mind in life and research for 10, 12 years of nothing but this. I've actually taken a swing at a offender at the courthouse who tried to attack the victim in the courthouse. I have put myself between a victim but there's only one real way to deal with an offender, is to get in their face, to be a bully and be a bully back. And one way I learned is I've done it. I had to tell somebody one time, if you hurt my sister ever again, they won't find your body. You know what? And I know that that's a crime on my part, but I had to do something to protect her. I sat shotgun at the door of her house because the police couldn't do it. Okay. So, and nobody should have to live that way. But the police couldn't always be there. That's not their job. So it was my duty. And so if he came into the house and I shot and killed him, who would be arrested? Even though he was violating the order, which would protect me down the road in court, I would still be arrested. Just like when I threw a punch at the guy who attacked the victim at the courthouse, if I had really made full-fledged contact to him, I would have been arrested. Okay? The laws are screwed up. Okay? They're screwed up in so many different ways because they're meant to protect what? They're meant to protect the guilty.
Well, it's habeas corpus.
There is no justice. But I will say this: if there is a victim in this room right now, go to High Point. And you know what, women, parents, teach your daughters. Put that up again. Teach your daughters to reach out for help. And why is this the most silent crime ever? Because many offenders, they have women are ashamed. They're ashamed to come out and say anything because nobody's going to believe them. Why? Because many offenders, they send flowers. They buy big engagement rings to overcompensate for their crimes. So please teach your daughters that coming home from a failed marriage or failed relationship is so much better than your parents having to buy that coffin.
And healthy boundaries, need to be taught, right, from birth, because parenting, lacks this awareness around boundaries sometimes, which puts us in vulnerable situations. We're not aware, of what's happening sometimes before it happens. If we can make a proactive effort to help guide children, as some schools do, some organizations do, around healthy boundaries, that would certainly alleviate some of this issue.
It's weird because when I first came out with my invention, and I was not a public person. I was used to hiring my PR when I owned my own company. So I was having to get creative because I didn't have the money to really run with this, right? So I learned that I had to get out and pitch this. And so I started going to pitch tanks and places that would teach me. There's a women's organization, Count Me In. You may have heard of it. So anyway, I went there. And they teach you how to do an elevator pitch. And if you win, then you go into their programs and stuff like that. Anyway, I get up there and give my pitch, and I'm serious, right? I'm almost in tears because my sister's a victim. We're still fighting for her life. And and this is what they told me. I would have thought everybody would have all these women would have pitched in money and let's build this now and get this out there. No. You need to start smiling more when you're on stage. You're a beautiful woman. You need to. We just don't get your message, and they didn't get my message because a lot of them are powerful women who never experienced this. But it was all about my presentation. It wasn't about the problem. But I sucked it up. I sucked up their criticism. I went back the next day and I knocked their socks off. I smiled. I laughed about the problem and said, we're going to fix it. And I won the competition. But I didn't want their help. So I have this little attitude about things, I guess. But my attitude was if you don't want to chip in and save lives, then I can't work with you.
There is another angle to this that I think we need to mention, at least. And you can correct me if I'm wrong about this. But if some people are made to feel powerless and humiliated in public, they take that anger back home with them. And so people come into those relationships steaming mad at the way they've been treated in the outside world. And then what do you expect them to be? They're mad, they're angry, they're going to take it out on whoever is there. So I'm not saying it's justified, but I am saying there is another angle to this, that if we treated people respectfully and didn't make them enraged by how powerless they are socially, then maybe this would be tampered down just a bit.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, feel free to correct me. I think the socio-emotional and parenting issues are key, and also relating this to our social change movement around awareness with regards to mental health, because mental well-being is difficult, okay? It's very challenging. It requires a lot of grit and support in order to overcome and transform some of these issues psychologically and emotionally. That takes time and expert support oftentimes. So if we can encourage our society to look at mental health as part of our overall wellness rather than stigmatize it, that will certainly help globally, because I know that in certain cultures, still in South Korea, mental health and mental well-being is stigmatized to a great degree, to the point where they don't even accept and acknowledge autism. So yeah, it's a huge problem.
Yes.
And if I can add just to the conversation really quickly and everything, it also impacts sometimes the relationships that you get involved in as well, because I know that being a older single gentleman and everything, that I've actually dated some young ladies that have gone through those kind of relationships. They were abused, and so they brought some of that abuse into the new relationship when they were having relationships with me. So that is one thing that we have to think about as well, even in the course of like trying to deal with this issue on a global kind of way of doing things. So I just wanted to add that. And also it does impact us a lot, even the ways that we don't always think about. I actually have a second cousin, and they are now well into their adult years, but they lost their mother because it was a case of domestic violence, and that was in rural North Carolina. So there was definitely some fighting and things that went on in that situation. And they like I said, they watched and witnessed their father kill their mother, and that they are now adult children and things of that nature. And the best I can tell, they have definitely dealt with it, but we can also see as their relatives how it has impacted their development, even as they have grown into being wonderful. Both one is a gentleman, and then the two sisters. So it was like three children that were watching this happen at the time. And like I said, they are now adults, but that happened to them. And of course, that also impacted our family, because I remember my mom either had to go, I want to say the gentleman is out now, but she had to go to like the parole hearings and things of that nature. So it does have a wide ranging kind of impact. And even when it comes to education, and I do want to kind of tie it to another important issue and everything. I know me and Kim and others have had conversations about the ways that we deal with police officers as we're dealing with Black Lives Matter and things of that nature. So we do have to have, respect for law enforcement and find ways to actually talk to them and to talk to them with respect and all those things of that nature, because there are definitely law enforcement officers, and there are ways that you have to present yourself when you are encountering these law enforcement officers. So I would add that as well. So that's just one of my other thoughts, that we have to be kind of definitely to some degree respectful of our law enforcement community. I mean, there are some bad apples within that community, and there are also what I call paper cops, and they sometimes take it and abuse that situation because they have like some authority, but they're not true police officers. So that's just some of my thoughts. I don't know if Fatima wants to chime in and add some other things, because I know she told me that she's got to jump off for a family Zoom call very shortly. So you've heard a lot of things said, so I did want to give Fatima some time to speak as well.
Time. Yay, Fatima. I am so give us a shout out about that. But I want to, can you share this photo, because this was one of the most impactful articles I started writing, was 50 Shades of Purple, the silent crime. I had a beautiful team working with me at one time. Financially, we took a big hit, and I had to pivot until I can get the invention back up. But people have no idea the bruises that these women carry, and not always the ones you see. And Fatima, thank you for what you're doing. Junwa, thank you, because this is, I'm going to tell you, it's a dangerous mission, because at any moment, because it's happened to me, at any moment, if someone catches wind that you're supporting a woman and it's someone that they have something against, they will take it out on you. So always be careful. But Fatima, share with us what Mark had asked.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Before I get out of here, there was a couple things that I've been wanting to say. One is thank you, Mark, for sharing, a snippet of something very personal to you. And, the mental aspect of it all, just dealing with it and not speaking out about it. Talk therapy is just, if we can get people to go and just, to seek the help and just get a release. The Me Too movement have been so instrumental in people actually coming out, and being able to share again. There's so much that we hold and hide and keep hidden within us, afraid of, the recourse that happens from sharing and just the fear and all of it, the stigma of it all. But, I can't stress the importance enough of being able to talk and get that release. Because like Mark said, it stays with you. And obviously it forms, the nature of relationships that you have as an adult, and it definitely impacts, your day-to-day relationships. Another thing I wanted to speak out about is, the victim shaming and, why don't you just leave and just get out? Clearly, if it was that simple, we wouldn't still be here talking about this issue. Women with children and, there's so many more aspects to the situation than just being able to get out. You have to have a plan of action. If your abuser is violent, you have to stay protected at all costs, and you just can't leave because you know what's going to happen even if you leave. So this isn't something that people should take lightly and just, well, why don't you just leave him? Okay, so who wouldn't just leave an abuser? It is so much more to that, and it disgusts me when people victim shame and, they have no idea. I mean, if it was just as simple as getting up, packing your bags, and being out, then again, we wouldn't still be here discussing that.
And thank you for bringing that up, because the victim shaming is something that just irritates me. Just kind of like when I was doing a march one time for one of the victims, and the police said, I asked them, why didn't you do more? And they said, we can't. And every time we do, they always go back. So why bother? Well, that impacted me enough to research and find out why. Because my sister was really bad about that too, until I set up a fund, because she had no money. She had no income. I set it up so that she could go get a job. But unfortunately, women who don't have an education, and at that time her industry was down, she had to go get a minimum wage paying job, which didn't pay enough for even a roof over the head, let alone food for the babies. The court order no longer, I don't know about other states, but in North Carolina, it no longer orders the offender to pay an alimony so that the woman can take care of her kids while they're separated. It used to do that, but it no longer does that. So, and nor does it in North Carolina force them to pay child support. Those become civil independent cases outside of the protective order, which that should have never happened. So, but I like thinking that perhaps we can do a cool off time when we release these men, because we know for a fact 85% of the time within 48 hours of being released, they will violate that order with a worse crime. We know this. So if we know this, why aren't we intervening with this, right? So these are things, simple things, I think, that we, with simple solutions, just like the town of High Point. I'm going to tell you right now, if I'm a victim, I'm going to move to High Point. I'm going to register my name with the sheriff there, the chief of police. I'm going to bake them a cake, take it to them, because they get it, and they're doing it, and they're doing it right. And a lot of people have experienced, this is what bothers me. A lot of people have experienced this crime. And like you said, 1/4 of the people, 1/4, that's a lot of people. And we turn our head to it. Yep. I know I probably was turning my head to it until it hit my sister. Okay. And I'm not intentionally, it's just that I didn't know what it really was.
Well, you have the empathy now. I mean, so if the if the resources are there in High Point, North Carolina, it would be good for anybody to go and live there. What a wonderful community that supports each other, especially when in trouble.
And the men, I told them, I said, you're violating a law somewhere. You're not giving the criminal their rights. And he said, we're sick of it. And he said, we had to talk with the judges in town. We had to talk with the people in town. And we took a vote in this town. And this is how we run the town. And I applauded them. So did everybody there. But why can't we do this in every town?
Yeah.
And Mark, if I may say one last thing before I go, I want to definitely give a shout out to Dr. Angela Ridgely. She's out of Charlotte, North Carolina. She has a company called Healing After Domestic Violence. Her work is just astounding. So again, when you implore people to get out, okay, what does that look like? Once they're out, then what? They have to find an apartment. They have to start a new life. They still have to stay protected. So what does that look like? And that's the work that Dr. Angela Ridgely does. It's the acronym is HAD, and it's Healing After Domestic Violence.
Well, let's do a TV show on this, women. Let's do a TV show and let's get these people on. I don't want to bring danger to them, which it can do, but there's also Wheels for Hope. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but I have donated 3 cars to them already. The man makes the cars for women who don't have a means. When my sister had to get separated from her offender, her husband, at the time they were married 20 years, he took all the cars. He destroyed one of them so that she wouldn't get it. He took all the money out of the bank account because by law he could. So she was left with nothing, and other than to go back to him. He had no idea if I had to scrape and work an extra job, I was going to make sure she didn't. And he had no idea that I was going to sit there with a shotgun at the door 24/7 until I figured out what to do with her. We had to do it though. Nobody helped at that time. There were no organizations like you talked about. So I'm glad to hear about that.
Yeah, me too.
Impact got a lot of funding. Mm-hmm. But I'm nothing against them, but they don't do anything but hand out pamphlets and a pat on the shoulder. There is no housing for women. There is no alternative resources to seek help. Most of the time what you hear is run. I hate saying it, but that's
run where?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Where you run into. That's the question. I want to give a shout out. I think that it still exists, but in Durham, there is the Genesis Home. So that does some work around domestic violence and things of that nature. So that is a place that folks can go to if they're here in the Triangle area of Durham, because the Genesis Home does do some work with domestic violence. And there's some other organizations like that as well. This is one of them cases where I actually think that we should politicize things and get our political and social justice and everybody else folks involved in this very important issue of fighting against domestic violence. So I'm glad that y'all brought this up and brought it up in a very effective and wonderful way and everything. Another issue that I think is the opposite side of that, and I just want to bring this up really quickly, that I just wanted to talk about real briefly, is sometimes there are other things that are politicized that are being used in a wrong way. And that's the way I felt when I saw some folks getting their natural citizenship during the RNC convention. And that was kind of used as a political tool, because I am now of the understanding, and Jim, I don't know whether you've heard differently, that some of these folks that were being naturalized and definitely want to become citizens of the United States did not know that they were going to be used in this way by the RNC, the Republican National Convention. So that's kind of like maneuvering and manipulating people into this kind of thing, I think is totally unjust. So I know that I've got friends that have been through that citizenship kind of process, and I just felt that that was something that should not have been done. But I'll let Jim make a comment if he's heard differently. But I think that I had heard through the news media that some of those folks were glad to get the citizenship, but they did not know that they were going to be used in that way.
And tenants in New York also were used that way, where they were recorded without their knowledge that they would be used in the RNC, and they were clear that they were not Trump supporters, and they felt used and abused. And so this is definitely something that we just recently witnessed. But, I go back to what Ankit was saying. When you have these dating apps or these matchmaking apps, why aren't the mosaic, why isn't that tied into it so that you can just swipe and say, "Ooh, this guy has got a history." Why aren't we coordinating the information that we do have and providing people so that they don't get set up with the wrong people?
Yeah, and so there's all kinds of legal rights. I mean, we live in a litigious society.
That's true.
And so we have to be savvy around how to communicate this important, vital information that can save people's lives.
Well, again, we're talking about the most silent crime in the world. When we give the stats, it's not just the U.S. One other thing that's very disappointing to me is the police departments are not required to report domestic violence stats. Okay, so the stats that you do see, the 12 million female victims, was not all of them.
That's right.
So, when you look at a crime that's just totally ignored, this is it. But I look at it this way: if we could clean up this crime, recidivism crime in general, maybe if we can use an invention similar to mine, if we could clean up this particular crime, reduce it, collect data to help inspire better habits, right, and inspire things, we also might reduce other crimes. Okay, we also might reduce the future crimes because the future criminals are our children who grow up in these habitat areas, right? So a child who is living in a home of domestic violence is more apt to grow up to behave that way. And they know this. See, these are the things they know. Do we do anything to intervene? No. I mean, and it could be it's a fixable problem, right? It's just a lot of these things. If you could cool a man down before he leaves jail with his protective order in his hand, sit down, have a Coca-Cola with him, get Nick to do it. My God, Nick's great at calming people down. Let's talk about what you can invest your money in and time in. But seriously, right? But to chill them out, have a Coke with them, and talk to them, and maybe ask them to come to a meeting once a week, right? And generally, a lot of people don't know this. A lot of them are required to go to anger management meetings, but nobody's there to enforce that they go. There's nothing tracking them that they can go, and it's always an excuse. If I don't have time, nobody's going to show up. There's always the excuse. But what if we took impact? This is what I didn't like about impact. Impact was, oh, you poor thing, there's nothing we could do for you. Here's a pamphlet. Make sure you call 911 and don't lose that piece of paper. All right. What if we took impact and the money from impact and we set up a cool-off station for the guys being released from jail? Now, the other thing that happened that irritated the BGs out of me was there was a law put in place that when they released the offender, they were supposed to contact the victim. For some reason that never happened. Oh my God. I'll tell you what, we made sure they had 15 phone numbers. Yeah. Not one was ever called. And you want to talk about getting in a DA's face? I got into a DA's face to the point that I thought I was going to get arrested.
Thank goodness you're a warrior.
Well,
I'm a bad warrior. I get in trouble all the time.
No, you're a good warrior. There's no doubt that you're a good warrior. There's no doubt about that at all. The other thing I was going to say is that it is a global issue because I know that it's definitely going on in other parts of the country as well. I've got friends that are in kind of the area where Ankit is around India and Pakistan and other parts of the world, as well as just other societal parts, whether that's Africa, whether that's Asia, whether that's Europe, Australia. But it is an issue that is a global issue. So it is one that has impacted the globe, because I know a friend of mine who is in she's a comedian and a dentist, and she's actually in, I believe it's Pakistan or one of those countries, but she talks out about a lot of the issues around women's rights, and definitely domestic violence is included in that. And she oftentimes talks about how she fears for her life because she's speaking out in these kind of repressive governments, and they're sometimes even more repressive than we are here in the United States. So definitely speaking out on these issues can also be very deadly and very dangerous to these folks. But she just feels very passionate about it. She's a young lady, and like I said, she's a dentist. That's her day job, but she is also a comedian and also involved in a number of other things. So she is definitely one that is not afraid to speak out. And I'd like to see more and more of us be brave enough to speak out on all of these issues that deal with so many of the injustices around the world. That's the one great thing I got to say about the four of us here that are on the panel right now, is that all of us are not afraid to speak out. So I think Jean-Joie had something that you wanted to add to that.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to include a tool that's called IEIL. It was created by a mentor of mine who's a parenting mentor named Kim Biggio, parenteducator.com. And so it's very simple, IEIL. If you can remember that acronym, it stands for Identify and Validate the Impulse, Identify and Validate the Emotions, Identify and Provide some information, and Limit Set. Those 4 de-escalation techniques work in every relationship, every conversation, every time.
So I want. Can you post the thing I'm sharing now? Because I want to show that it's not just the U.S. The stats are just as high. If you share
Any
the
patriarchal society, and there are many of those.
So you saw the numbers I posted. And here's what's interesting is David K. Johnson, whom we all love and know very well, thought that my numbers were off, and he validated them. But look at this, 137 women a day are killed by a family member just in the UN. Okay? Just in that one country, are killed a day. All right?
Wow.
In the U.S., when you do the numbers of 12 million female victims, that is 26 per minute. Get out your calculator and calculate it. Yeah, it's 26 per minute. That's a lot of people. Mm-hmm. So when I hear, a lot of issues going on, and I'm sorry, I'm just not as sympathetic to other issues, because until we fix this one, I don't think we're going to fix the other problems. I think if we fix this problem, we will fix the other problems. I really do.
Systemic. And
yes.
There's this, I've talked about this before, praticya samutpada, codependent co-origination. So everything is related to each other. And if we solve one systemic or address one systemic problem, it will automatically lead to us transforming some of these other significant problems. So they're all interrelated.
And it is so much bigger crime than any other crime out there. And when you look at the money that is spent on just that one crime, which David K. Johnson was like, there's no way. There is no way we spend. And it's weird because I had a lower number, and then I went to the meetings in High Point, and they gave me the real calculation. And I'm like, oh my God, that's pathetic. And then David K. Johnson validated my numbers, and he was blown away that we spend this much money a year on the crime, and we shouldn't.
Well, I would like to talk a little bit about what Mark brought up about, everybody on this panel can talk about it, but there's a lot of fear and shame out there, and it prevents people from speaking up about this. And so one of the things we have to do is destigmatize this. Yep. And so that people are not ashamed that it happened to me. Oh, I must have done something wrong. Oh, it's something I did. And, you have to be able to talk about these things without shame and without judgment, because if you do speak up about it, there will be a crackdown on you that you are speaking about something we don't want to hear, and people will try to silence you. So this is also a systemic problem.
Yeah, and those are both interrelated. I mean, I just think that there's multiple levels. We have to have the legal action as well as the personal actions, the emotional, psychological, work. It's just so complex, and there's multiple ways to approach it at the same time.
And I agree. And I think, we just have to approach it logically as well. It's like I wouldn't do anything until I researched it for years. It wasn't something I just leaped on and said, oh, you guys are doing wrong. Or, I really was very, very careful because I knew the implications of saying something wrong. in this area. So there is a lot that can be done just easy though, right? Just simple little things, education. And also I want to tell people technology has evolved. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Eve Carson and what happened to her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I knew Mark would be. Fatima would probably be as well. She was the president of UNC Chapel Hill. She was a young, bright, beautiful student, had her whole life just beautiful. She worked so hard. And two men came on campus, but on that day, they were pulled over. All right. There were warrants out for these two men, but there was no unified database for the police officers. And this wasn't too long ago, probably 2010-ish? Yeah. So, but there was no unified database. Everybody thought because TV showed this unified, they're wanted, and no, that didn't exist. So they told the guys, just be more careful. Don't, because they were pulled for traffic violations. So they let the two guys go, and then they went and they found this girl. They pretty much tortured her most of the day, took all the money out of her bank account with her card, and executed her in the middle of UNC Chapel Hill Street, execution style. Humiliated her, stole from her, and then executed her. All right. These two men could have been locked up that day if the database existed that said that there was a warrant out for their arrest and that they were dangerous. All right. But that's not what happened. Since then, and this is good for everyone, okay, because it reduces the ability to wrongfully arrest someone, all right, is the database has been built. They started building it not long after that incident. Somebody got sick of that when they got wind that those two men were pulled over that day. And they have since built a database that is shared among all police departments in the world, or in the U.S. I call it the world. And this was not easy to do because every police department, every municipality has their own tools, right?
Yeah.
But linking all of this so that when they pull somebody over, they're going to have a notice that says this person is wanted in Virginia. They didn't show up to court, and all the details about them. If they're dangerous, if it's drug related, should you be concerned about guns? Are they violent? All of this information. All right. So what's great about that is you'd say, well, how is that good for just innocent people? Well, if there's a notice out to be on the lookout for someone, right, and you have their identity, now you have more than their identity, right? You have a lot of things about them. When the police say, you know what, we're looking for someone that kind of looks like you, but they pull you over and they see your ID is this, they're going to say, okay, you're fine, you're good. We're not going to have any altercations. But you can rest assured that when the police are pulling you over, that's the way it should be, right? That they're just pulling you over to figure things out. Before, there wasn't enough information. Fear gets up, everybody gets angry, and nobody works together. So a lot of bad things happen. But now information data is being shared to prevent these kind of things so that the police have the right information. Are there going to be some bad seeds? Yes. There are going to be some bad police. And this is what I want to share with the world, what my dad taught me, because I've been pulled over by bad police. All right. I've dealt with bad police. And the first thing I do now, especially that I have a phone, all right, I call. Even if I'm wrong, I call. First thing I do is I call 911 and I go, I'm dealing with some police officers. I want them ID'd right now. Now, in some cases, you're not going to get that chance, right? Put your hands up, don't move. Then you go, I want a phone call. And what we need to do is change the policies that in a situation where people are afraid is they get a phone call right away. There's no reason why they shouldn't. In this day and time, there's no reason why somebody shouldn't get a phone call right away while they're sitting in the car. And body cams.
Yes.
Body cams. I know the inventor of the body cams. And every police officer should be not only have one, but not have the ability to turn it off. And that's what I think is going to start fixing some of the problems that we have today in reestablishing trust between the communities and law enforcement. Because right now I don't have trust with the law enforcement. I do know I love a lot of them.
This is the thing, Kimberly, that is going on in this country that is maddening, because I don't know how we're going to restore the trust. We don't have trust in the Justice Department. We don't have trust in the CDC. We don't even have trust in the USPS now. So all this trust that we once had, that I grew up with, we don't have. So
why do we have
how are we
trust?
going to rebuild the trust in the people that are supposed to protect and serve? It's very difficult for me to imagine how we're going to get out of the mess that we've dug ourselves into.
And this is what I tell people. Probably less than 1% of the police are bad. Less than 1%. And can you filter them out? I don't know. Why do other police officers turn their heads? I have to ask people, why do you turn your head when something happens with your friends that you're hanging out with, or the gang of friends that you're hanging out with, right? How many times have you turned your head and said, oh, it's no big deal, right?
There's a lot of peer pressure, and we've got to get past that too.
Right. And when I was working in an industry where I was the only female most of the time, and there was some sexual harassment, why do people turn their head and not do anything about it? And let me tell you why. Okay, one man did step up for me. Okay, he stepped up for me and he said, why is she being sent over here? This was not her fault. She turned the person in, yet you're punishing her, not him. Okay, one man stepped up for me. Do you know what happened to him? He got fired.
I can guess.
Okay.
Well, that's even what's happened with some of those that you're talking about.
He was studying law, and he was in an engineering field just to pay for his way through law school. And he went on to be a great and wonderful lawyer. But he stood up for me, and he lost his job because he stood up for me. That's why people turn their head and go, you know what? She's not worth me losing my job over. That issue's not worth me losing my job over. Okay.
Yeah, they buried their heads. Yeah.
Right. That's why. So I will say this, okay, on the flip side, and I think it's kind of funny. One of my bosses didn't turn his head. And when he got the first chance to take that guy out to a bar and beat the living crap out of him, he did. Okay. So but I didn't justify that either. I think that was wrong. What I wanted done was policies put in place that protect women from such sexual harassment, but didn't punish the woman when it was reported. Okay, because back then the woman
Kimberly, it goes even deeper. It goes even deeper. I can remember when in high school, a guy who was a big guy was in a fight with a physical altercation with his girlfriend, and trying to break that up. All the guys around were mad at me, not at the guy doing the physical violence. They got mad at me for trying to break it up. Yeah. So, this peer pressure type of thing, you get trained not to intervene because everybody gets mad at you.
And it could be,
you get fired,
but that's been going on.
She's so pretty, but it could mean a person's life in the police department. If they turn somebody in or do something wrong, it could be their family's life. It could be their life. Because if there's a dirty cop there, and sometimes the best thing you can do is keep your head low, your attitude high, your standards high, and hope that eventually you flush it out. But a lot of people don't know that is the government is the worst organized crime in the world because they have immunity and means to cover up. And I know because I'm dealing with one such situation that, thank God, somebody's finally stepped up and started working with me. And I have been told, not by this particular person because they don't know me well enough yet, but I've been told by people who do know me that the reason why this is happening is probably because of my invention. So
Good.
I don't want to interrupt. I just want to let you know that I corroborate what Kim is saying, and it happens at a global level too in the UN. In fact, I've had information that's been confirmed again and again that people in the UN had a big problem. I don't know if it's still going on, but I wouldn't be surprised with human trafficking and sexual abuse and prostitution. And it's those agencies in the UN that were charged with protecting those victims. They were re-victimizing them.
I call it, and there's also a thing that I call twice the victim. And the twice the victim syndrome is when you turn somebody in and then you have to go through the government system because the burden of proof is on you, right? I'm going to share another story because things haven't changed much in many years. Women's lives are not valuable, okay?
Yeah.
So Tennessee, okay, we'll share this. But
yeah, just real quickly, I just wanted to bring this up and everything, and then I don't want to hear what you've got to say as well, Kim, because I know you're bringing up some things.
Can you make
and
it bigger? Can you make it bigger?
10 rules.
Mark. It's
Can you
too
make
small.
it
I can read it, but she can't. So I don't want
That's why I'm here to read it out loud. Because
Okay.
I was going to read it out loud as
All right.
well, so I'm hoping folks can make it out. But this is what was recently published as the 10 rules of survival if stopped by the police. It says, be polite and respectful when stopped by the police. Keep your mouth closed. Remember that your goal, that's number 1. 2, remember that your goal is to get home safely. If you feel that your rights have been violated, you and your parents have the right to file a formal complaint with your local police jurisdiction. 3, don't under any circumstances get into an argument with the police. 4, always remember that anything you say or do can be used against you in the court. 5, keep your hands in plain sight and make sure the police can see your hands at all times. 6, avoid physical contact with the police. No sudden movements and keep hands out of your pockets. 7, do not run even if you are afraid of the police. 8, even if you believe that you are innocent, do not resist arrest. 9, don't make any statements about the incidents until you are able to meet with a lawyer or public defender. And 10, stay calm and remain in control. Watch your words, body language, and emotions. So that's just some of the thoughts that some folks have given in terms of like ways to handle if you are encountered by the police. And I know that there are some organizations around here that have given those kinds of suggestions as well. So I know a number of folks that believe in
you learn that in school?
That's great thoughts.
You know,
Did you learn that in school, Mark? Was that taught to you in school?
Those were some of the basic things that I learned way back then. But you got to remember, I'm late 50s, and definitely I was remember having those kind of rules to have respect to law enforcement and things of that nature. So yes, I would say that I was taught that, but you also got to remember that in my case, I was also going to school with parents that while I was in school, my parents were involved in the civil rights struggle. So a number of times we were also told that as a means of dealing with the peaceful protests that we were doing. So even as a young kid, I was told that is a way to kind of like not aggravate the situation. Because
Mark,
said
what I'm asking you is, I'm not asking you whether you were taught that. I'm asking you whether you were taught that in school.
We were in the South. We were in that time period. Yeah, they would have talks with us in the classroom. I went to an all-black school. Yeah,
I wonder if that's true today.
I don't know. I don't think so because
we had civics classes back then too.
Yeah, we had civics, but I was attending an all-black school at the time, and because of the civil rights movement, the teachers were very worried about us. But I learned exactly what I don't think they teach that anymore. Yeah. And I don't think they teach that in the homes. But let me tell you something else that you should do. Keep your mouth shut, like he said. Do not admit to anything. Don't say, the minute you're arrested, say, yes, sir, no, ma'am, yes, ma'am, whatever, right? Yep. Don't say whatever. Don't say whatever. Don't say whatever. And this is something I taught my boys, okay? Because boys can be in trouble makers, right, Mark? Yes. So I was very adamant about no matter what, keep your mouth shut, call me, then you tell me the truth. Because if you don't tell me the truth and I can't help you and fix you, then you're going to go away if something really bad happened. But if you work with me, I will knock the walls down. If you don't, I'm going to knock you through the wall. That's the way I raise kids, a little tough edge, right? But you got to impair in them that the system should be trusted to a certain point, but not all the way. Do not run your mouth. Zip it. Ask for an attorney right off the bat. And ask to call someone. Even if you're wrong and your parents are probably going to beat the crap out of you, which I hope they don't, call somebody for help, right?
I'm trying to make the point that these are great rules, and I certainly lived by them myself. But it's a school of hard knocks is the way I learned this. And you have to, but we have to get this training into every kid everywhere,
Right.
because we don't.
We don't.
I'm just saying.
We can do it now.
I think maybe your upbringing was different from mine, but why isn't this taught?
Why isn't it commonly taught with to me, a lot of people probably think this is common sense, right? Or you might get it from the common core values at home, but common core values, and most parents ignore the fact that their kids could ever get in trouble. I looked at the fact my kid could get into every kind of trouble. So, I took the reverse attitude. I didn't sit there and expect them not to get into trouble. And I think that's the biggest problem. It's the parents. Okay. I hate saying it, but it's the parents.
Well, you could come from a divorced home. You can come from a home that has domestic violence. We can't generalize into parents. Parents are doing the best they can, generally speaking. But, if it's taught in the schools and everyone knows what's expected of them, then we might see people behave a little differently. Because if I'm growing up a certain way and I've been trained to defend myself and not take any abuse, then I'm going to interact with the police in a very different way than the way you taught your kids to behave. So this is something that has to be, by the time you're out of 6th grade, you should know this.
So you get a bad attitude in the schools. I have a family members that teach in schools. And you get this bad attitude in schools of you can't tell it. That takes away our freedom. You can't tell us how to do this. Don't teach my child that. I'll teach my child that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you get a lot of that.
There's also, so our educational system is broken in some significant ways. In terms of serving the public, we have to respect the fact that the schools are collaborating with the police departments, right, and our justice system. So if we can encourage our schools and families to teach and promote nonviolent communication, such as IEIL, simple things such as those 10 rules or guidelines regarding how to interact with people, not just police, but whenever you're facing a scary situation.
Right. De-escalate.
De-escalation.
That's what it's about.
And I think we have to begin with trust first, right? And so one of the things that the governor here in North Carolina put out a grant one time to help establish trust between the communities and the police departments. I don't know that anyone ever achieved that, but the thing is that we're going to have to achieve a certain level of trust. So maybe a policy needs to put in place that we're going to teach this, but this is how the police are going to act. Okay. Yeah, but there's got to be some handshaking. There's got to be, okay, we're going to say, just like we did with, what is it called? The drug program for children. Remember when the police would come in and talk to people?
Yeah, the DARE program. And there's a group of educators in gifted education who are actually quite diverse in terms of their backgrounds, people of color, who started this I Urge movement. It's brand new. It's nascent from SENGifted, SENG-gifted.org. And they created this manifesto called I Urge, URGGE, to create a tool for people to have conversations with regards to collaboration around important issues that are difficult to talk about.
Right.
And again, I call it the eggshell syndrome. When things happen, people start walking on eggshells instead of addressing the real problem because they don't want to hurt people's feelings or cause a bigger stink. But the problem is that we're not facing the real problems and fixing them. And then we move on. And then so you have protests. And then so like the Trayvon issue, there's a foundation for Trayvon that still exists. Okay. Does anyone really still get highly involved with it besides a few women? No. And again, we get down to the point, if we just teach our kids how to react to certain situations, what if there was an app on the phone? Okay. And teenagers are going to get into trouble, right? But the teenagers sign on to the app. Yeah, I'm going to get into trouble occasionally. But if I get into trouble, I'm going to put my hands up. My phone's going to call my mom and dad. My phone's going to call an attorney, right? What if there was an app? So when somebody is approaching them to say, what are you doing? They don't have to run. They don't have to fear, right? that they know that they're in trouble, they're busted. Oh, well, yeah, they're going to get in trouble at home, but maybe there's some sort of agreement. And, you know, no kid likes to get in trouble at home. And this is what I told they don't like to. They don't want to admit they did something bad and wrong, right? But sometimes you have to. And I'm going to tell two stories real quick. One's a funny story. One of my boys, as much as I taught him not to ever mouth off to the police, when they get a little drunk, sometimes the brain goes, right? So there he is getting arrested in Myrtle Beach for drunken and disorderly. A whole bunch of people. It wasn't just him. It was a group. I felt bad for the police officers. So there he is, and he's Mr. Muscle Man and Mr. I can do anything. And the officer goes, if you say one more word, I'm taking you in. Before he was going to let him go. He was just going to let them go. What do you think he has to do?
Say a word.
He said word.
Word. Exactly. He said one word. Word.
He was drunk as a skunk. Word. And I'm like, you did not. You did not. So everything you taught them just went straight out the door because they were, inebriated. And, you can't control that. But the officers should understand these kids, a lot of them, they weren't violent. They might get violent in fighting and this whatever was going on. But at the most part, kids are going to unfortunately be stupid kids. And we need to maybe put in place some laws. And the reason why I say this is because I attend or used to attend quarterly meetings in North Carolina for law enforcement. But put in place some laws that don't ruin their lives forever for doing some stupid things like that, right? And because right now the laws actually hurt a lot of little stupid things, and it shouldn't. The other thing I want to address is women's value, the value of women's lives. Okay, and in Tennessee, and this was maybe 15 years ago, there was an incident where a woman, the house was broken into, and the woman was raped and violated and beaten really, really bad. She should have died. Okay. As the perpetrator left, he killed the dog. Okay. So the police.
Oh, I'm mad. I'm sorry.
Well, okay. This happens every day, Jim. So the police get involved and then they catch the offender. All right. They can't prosecute him for raping her. All right. But they prosecuted him for killing the dog. So the woman's supposed to suck it up and go, well, that's the only way we can get that jerk in prison for a long time so he doesn't do this to anyone else, then so be it. But her life didn't matter, okay? So if you want to talk about a life that doesn't matter, suck on that one for a day or two. Yep. I read that story and was mad as fire, but then this is the attitude I had to take. If that's the only way they can get that jerk in prison, I guess that's what we have to suck up and do.
Yeah, they didn't get Al Capone for his crimes. They got him for tax evasion.
Yeah, right. They got him for tax evasion. Sometimes
they
got
the guy for killing her dog, not for violating her.
It's infuriating.
That's very infuriating. I mean, like I said, that's just upsetting on so many different levels. The one thing that I would add, Kim, to what you were saying.
It doesn't have to happen. Go ahead.
Yeah, the one thing I was going to add to what you were saying, Kim, is that, and it's just one of the things that is a pet peeve of mine, and I definitely agree that women's rights and women's lives should be honored all the time. There's no doubt about that. But just on the law enforcement side of everything, there is a group of folks, and that's what we also have to deal with as well. And that's kind of what I was referring to when I said the paper cops, because there are folks that get involved in security, they get involved in these kind of jobs. And part of the reason they get involved is because they want to abuse society on some level or another. They've got like some sort of ulterior motives of what's going on. Some of them have come from the military. They've come from some other things that have kind of shattered their mindset and things of that nature. So they've already got a chip on their shoulder. So I do think that we sometimes have to differentiate between true law enforcement and those kind of like paper cops, whether that's security or whether that's whatever, because I do know that even in the case of George Zimmerman, he was community watch, and I understand that some of the things that he was doing was he might have had a chip on his shoulder. So I would just add that component to everything. And I do think that you are right about what you're saying about cases not being remembered or things of that nature. I'm actually going to bring up another case really quickly that's also based here in North Carolina, but it went global as well. You mentioned Eve Carson, and that was 2008. But what I've told you as well is that there's a case that is now 8 years unsolved, and that is the case of my cousin. Well, actually, second cousin, but folks are still trying to figure out what happened to Faith Hedgepeth. So
Faith Hedgepeth, yeah.
Faith Hedgepeth is definitely related to me and things of that nature. So, like I said, she was killed over there in the UNC. She was a very respected young lady at her school, and folks are still trying to figure out what was going on. She would have been the first person in her family, meaning the immediate family, to graduate from college had she gotten out of college. So, like I said, I know that she appeared at a few family events and was definitely very much of a loving spirit and things of that nature. So she died back in 2012, and folks are still trying to figure out what happened in that case. So like I said, she was a cousin of mine and things of that nature. So I just wanted to bring up that case as well, because that is a family member who is still trying to find out what happened to Faith, and we're still trying to figure that out. So I just wanted to bring that up really quickly as another case of one of the cases where we're still trying to figure out what was going on. So I just wanted to share that real quickly as well.
That's important. And there's a whole community of people who are trying to raise visibility around unsolved crimes and murders. It's one of the important things that IBM TV could consider doing. There's a lot of unsolved crimes, and one was just recently solved, and it relates to the paper cop syndrome that Mark mentioned with regards to the Golden State Triangle killer, right? Where the comedian's wife was actually quite fundamental to solving the case with the police. And he was a former cop who ended up killing people all over the state. And did it go on for 20, 30, 40 years? I can't remember, but he ravaged the state and the women and the prostitutes. That went unsolved for many, many
There was
years.
another one in New York that was happening on a perpetual basis. And you know what? They never reported most of the women that were killed. Actually, I was at the police station one day, and there was a really bad break-in and rape in not too far from where I live, and they weren't reporting it on the news. So not every crime gets reported, and that's not good either. So, and they do that sometimes because they say they want to try to catch the offender, and by reporting it on the news, it might eliminate their opportunity to catch. So
but there's so many victims who don't have that kind of visibility, such as homeless people. Mm-hmm. I mean, who's gonna put that on the news?
Right.
Well, and again, that there's just so much, unfortunately, that just the police themselves can do to protect. And again, I don't feel like they're all bad. I feel like that there are some bad ones. I would like to see things set in place where, like you had said, and I have always suspected this in the human trafficking world, that a lot of the crimes were internal into the government. One of the things people don't know, this is my journey that I learned, is that there are two internal government systems that have complete immunity. Well, government itself has immunity, but complete sovereign immunity. So one of them that is a government system that owns itself is schools and education. Did you know that? They make their own laws. Nobody can breach those laws, not even the government. And the other is the Department of Revenue. And so the Department of Revenue can make their own laws, and they actually have sovereign immunity. So these are things to me that
diplomats.
Well, it creates dictatorship and organized ability to do organized crime. I am one of my friends is the part of the and head of the anti-human trafficking in Houston. She actually works with the constable's office, and so I also work with Sisters of NFL. And they have a huge mission to end human trafficking as well. I'm going to get a little gross here, but does anyone know what the number one human trafficking is globally?
I mean, it's not children. What is it?
Nope. Anyone? So it's not just.
Oh, you mean body parts?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I saw a whole PBS thing on that. That was fascinating. And the whole blood plasma too. That's very interesting. I didn't realize it was a commodity that blood banks are using.
So blood, but what is the number one organ that they're
Kidneys.
Kidneys.
Eyes,
Hearts.
No. So the number one human trafficked person or type.
Corneas.
What?
Corneas?
Corneas. No, I wish.
Okay.
Although that's horrific as itself. The number one human trafficked is young boys from the age of 17 to 25. And they are human trafficked for the organ and skin, and they're kept alive. So if you want to end human trafficking, that's where we need to start. But do you ever hear about it? No.
The only thing that I had heard about that is tangentially related is the dancing boys. They're prostituted in the Middle East culturally.
The boys.
I hadn't heard about that. Thank you for bringing that up.
No, this was brought to my attention 2 years ago when they came to me to see if there was a way we could collaborate with my invention and work with them. And so it's young, from the ages of 17 to 25, I think. And
for their skin. For their skin.
That is the number one organ human trafficked. And they're kept alive. So the reason is that the war victims, there's so many war victims where they destroy their skin. And so that's what they're used for.
Well, that's not gross at all. But that is staggering.
It is.
I missed something. What is your invention? Because I want to hear more about that.
Well, I really should reserve that for another day, but it's the ability to utilizing tracking because of my background in telecom and what I used to build. I understood technology well enough to know that in 2010 it wasn't quite there, but I knew it was coming. Was the ability to utilize artificial intelligence with tracking devices. And so what you do now is when an order is issued, the details of the order is entered into our database and interfaced with leads, right? The law enforcement automated database system that now exists. So all of those details are now entered in, how far away they're supposed to stay from what places and things like that. Then we take wearable, tamper-resistant devices, tracking devices, and we attach it to the victims and to the offender. Okay, if it's tampered with in any way or if the order is violated in any way, either direction, all right? Detailed reports are now collected. Data is now collected. The victim will get a notice and a map of what's going on, okay? And the police get an immediate notice so that they can intervene, and now they have a map, all right? Now, people go, well, why won't house arrest work? House arrest is a radio signal. And I don't know if you ever want a really funny laugh. There are a lot of things about house arrest I don't like. One, when it's ordered, they are allowed to remove it for 8 to 10 hours a day to go to work. Remove it. You didn't know this, did you? No, you didn't. Okay. So, yeah, I work with a lot of judges. So then the other problem is it's really easy to tap out of. Okay. I mean, go watch. It is so easy to get out of them. And all they have to do is leave it next to the antenna and go do whatever they want. Come back and say, I never left.
All right.
With mine, we embedded a special skin meter that will notify you if the device is removed at all.
So it's biometric.
It's very biometric, and it's going to be face scannable to do your report-ins, right? You have to do your report-ins. But what's also great about this, because a lot of men don't like this, well, it's going to prove me guilty. Well, if you're doing something wrong, hell yeah. But it can also prove you innocent.
Right.
Exactly. For all those men who go, I didn't do nothing. I didn't, my favorite is she was hitting herself.
Well, so what are the laws around biometrics here in the U.S. in terms of their development?
So we have changed.
It's quite big.
Right. So in the past 10 years since I started developing this, I had to actually go out and work and make sure some of these laws get changed to do it. And I actually had to shame one of the senators for shame on you for not passing this law. But because instead they were passing a potty law instead of a real law that protected real victims. Oh, we're going to protect women and children in the bathroom. I'm like, what about the law here that you're letting go to sleep that actually protects women and children everywhere? What? I was like, yeah. Okay, so the laws have finally matured. The court systems have matured. We have received a lot of plus until 4 years ago. Okay, so I also had to take a back step and pivot because financially I couldn't continue doing what I was doing. And Kit is going to help me get we have working prototypes. The police were playing with them. They loved them. They told me that it made their job so easy. They couldn't believe it. We actually test drove it to Washington, D.C. to a smart cities project. And I was the offender and somebody else was the victim. And the police were following us all the way down the highway to Washington, right? From Conover, North Carolina to Washington, D.C. And it was funny because it would show them when we got close together and when we didn't, but they could map it back. But here's what the funny thing was. We were making it complicated. We thought we had to watch it, but we didn't. It would notify us and then we could play it back. It did all the work for them. So they supported it. The problem was funding wouldn't support it.
There you go.
So if your government is, but what bothered me is the officers know that this is a crime far worse than any other crime in the world. Why wouldn't you? It's the most dangerous crime they're dispatched for. Why wouldn't you want to fund it? So then you have to look at the people making the laws. Are they guilty?
I know, culpable. And, a lot of them are out of touch. So in terms of, and we need rotation of leadership. Well, so in terms of culpability, would local resources help in any way with regards to funding? Not at all.
I applied for many grants, and because we were a for-profit organization, we were turned down. We were also turned down because we were not academia enough. At the time, I was not sitting on university boards. I am now. But again, that's a lot of resources and a lot of time to apply for these grants. They take years, not weeks or months.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not whining or complaining. We did great. We've got working prototypes that need to be for $650,000. I can get them re-engineered down to wearables. No, I am not going to use Apple. I've gotten into, unfortunately, into people's faces that we're not going to do that. We're not going to cut corners because my sister's life or someone else's mother or sister's life depends on it. So we're not going to cut corners. Eventually, you find the right people.
Are you going to do it as a nonprofit, or are you going to keep on?
I'm going to keep doing as is. Eventually, again, you will find the right investors.
Right.
I did try crowdsource funding, and guess what? Nobody feels sorry for the victims.
Because you could potentially implement this already in China and countries friendly to China, right?
Yeah, China has approached me for it, and I'm nothing against China. I just don't want to lose my patent rights.
Right, exactly.
Intellectual property rights.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I don't mind working with them, but I want to get paid a little bit if they're going to take my invention and run with it.
Right.
I'm not being greedy.
And it's also about quality control.
Yeah. And that's the other problem I have is people here's the thing. Everybody, the first thing they want to do, I've even had somebody who's a financial engineers. Can't you cut this? Can't you? No.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. I'm not cutting one piece of this because a life, not just a life, the police lives depend on it too. Okay. And here's the thing. If a police gets I reduce the false reports in it. I programmed this to reduce false reports. I tiered all of the alerting systems. I tiered everything. So when the director of Homeland Security looked at this, at the Smart Cities program, first words out of his mouth is she's the first person to ever solve this problem. And she did it right. But did we get any funding?
Oh, so
no.
So, a lot of the people on the financial shows on IBM TV talk about blockchain. Is that part of your model at all with NKIT?
No, I utilize artificial intelligence, but not blockchain. And a lot of the investors, again, people, they don't see the problem. They just don't. I walked into a university one time and I was talking to some professors about this, nobody even knew that it existed.
Well, a lot of the professors, I hate to say this, there's gender politics involved, right? How many of them are LGBTQ or women of color? Or women.
Exactly. And again, I will say this, the
LGBTQ.
Yeah, LGBTQ.
Sure.
And actually, I just told somebody yesterday, I'm not polling for them or campaigning for them unless they support them. And they were like, what? And I go, unless you, because we're in North Carolina, unless I know that you're going to back this bill 100%, I am not supporting you whatsoever. So anyway, but yeah, the problem, people don't want a tool like this because it will protect victims of all crime. And that's what I like about Joe Biden, is that he changed it from victims, women of this crime, to victims, because he knew that so many other people, this is not a crime for poor people. All right, people, get over it. Our Charlotte city manager, his daughter was killed because of this crime. Okay, so this is not eliminates the sophistication. You would be surprised. Look at how many football players are found guilty.
Well, and some football players are victims as well. And remember, there's a whole bunch of abusers who, actually, you know what? At my university,
I agree. There
was a coach who was quite famous in Pittsburgh, and he
you're absolutely right.
He colluded with and was in denial about one of the guys that he had on his team, who was an assistant coach who ended up abusing a whole bunch of boys, generations.
I know. And you know what?
Really true.
The only way we're going to stop this kind of stuff now is the use of technology and collaborating and supporting it. But so many people don't want. And here's what's weird is I did approach a very wealthy man recently with this, right? And I don't think he supports it. And so when somebody doesn't support it immediately, I unfortunately judge them because it's kind of like, why are you guilty? And so then you start this, hearing stories, right? And, maybe they were found maybe to somebody turned them in for being an offender, but they weren't. But to me, this tool would prove you innocent. And so a real honest person would want, let me tell you, I'll put it this way. And this is what the police say. An honest man is going to want to wear this. A person who is not really, guilty of the crime, they're going to say, put this on me. And then the rest of them is going to deter them from doing the crime, because they're going to be traced, they're going to be tracked, and they're going to be, like in High Point, they're going to be thrown up against the wall. So, but again, what if we did this and did the cool down tank? I like my cool down tank idea. I don't know why Impact didn't like it. I approached Impact about it. And I also approached Impact 4 times about my invention, because I was told by the government grant program that they give them all of the money.
Wait a minute. Because we're spending a ton of money on isolation, okay? Why can't this be part of that? And it's so much more friendly.
Because they lose their money for funding. So here's what happened. A lot of people don't know this, but when they did the bill and then they set up the funds for domestic violence, it all went to Impact because they were the first to come to the grant program, right? So rather than reinventing the wheel, but the grant says for tools, and they're not a tool, they're just a voice, right? But they own all the money. So when I went for the grant, they said you have to go through Impact and get them to approve you for the grant. So I did 4 times, but they see me as a
threat to their funding.
Right.
So this is politics.
Exactly.
There's so much politics that goes on in the world, unfortunately, and everything. We know that that's what happens is we got politics that happens on just about everything. We've actually got to get ready to bring up the ambassador and wrap everything up, because, we can get engaged in conversations forever and have all kinds of amazing conversations. But I know that very shortly, we're going to have Alexandria May and her show coming up at the 3:00 hour. So that's going to be coming up. And then we've got one of
her 2 best friends. The guys who flirt with her all the time. She's such a cutie. Real quick. All right. We are hosting International Day of Peace. All right. We've been calling it World Peace Day because I guess it's easier to say, what do you want for society? World peace. So anyway, but it's called International Day of Peace. IBM TV has been asked to host it. So this is what I want to do. All right. We are suffering right now. I want to send out a prayer every morning. I wake up and I dedicate a lot of my prayers to this crisis we're going through right now, because nobody's understanding each other's pains. All right. Nobody. We're divided in such a horrible, sad way, because your voice isn't being heard because another voice is being pained as well. And we need to shut down and hear each other's pains. But International Day of Peace, I want all of us to support it. I want each of us to do a short video.
I can do something around tea.
There you go.
Yeah, because I studied tea, and Urasenke is the organization in Kyoto that I belong to. So I'm a tea. I can teach tea, and I'd love to offer that.
And then we have Reiki and tea, and so all of these beautiful things. But I want each of you to kind of do a short video, like maybe less than 30 seconds, of 2 sentences of what does world peace mean to you, or what does our society need for world peace. But just something short, a short clip, because we're going to play them all. Reach out to your viewers and ask your viewers for these, because we will play your viewers' clips, right? Let's get the world involved. Right. But let's put aside our differences. One time I heard this, right? And King Solomon was good about this as well. Let's put aside our hurt, our pain, and our differences. Let's pray that we understand each other. We forgive each other, which sometimes I have a hard time doing. And let's learn to share each other's grief so that we can build and rebuild and stop destroying. Let's rebuild. Let's rebuild a community that has quality of life that we can share and be happy in. And that's what I want to ask. And then now, Mark, you can wrap, because I love your voice.
Thanks. Appreciate that. Getting ready to wrap everything up and everything, because definitely thanks a lot for that. Actually, we started this show talking about the other thing that was going on other than these serious issues, because I've got my fantasy football thing going on. So I was also doing that at the same time. So I've actually got a number of players that are been picked, and need to figure out. I did not have Walter football to help me, so I didn't have anybody on the IBM TV to help me. So I don't know how my team is going to look. But as I was telling Jim, I know I've got Tom Brady. I know I've got the Baltimore Ravens defense. So I've got a good core to start with. So that is a great thing that is going on. And I've got a couple of other good players, and we'll see how it plays out during the season, assuming that there is a season to even play out with. So we're going to hope that there is, and hopefully I'll get that going. We got a safety and a field goal, a safety and a field goal. And definitely that's something that we can get.
Hey, it's on IBM TV. It's Coach Mike's show now. It's Coach Mike, Tuesdays at 5:30 Eastern Time. Coach Mike will take you as far as you need to go.
Sounds like I'm going to have to figure out the players that I've got, and hopefully he'll get me going with all of that and everything. So I do know we've got some other amazing shows that are going on as well. So like I mentioned, we do have the show coming up with Alexandria. That's at 3:00. And of course, we've got a show that me and Kim are big fans of, Talking Upstream. So that'll be coming on at like about 4:30, and they'll be kind of getting some ideas around shows and things of that nature. So I'm looking forward to that. I did have a friend that popped in really quickly and everything. So as I'm wrapping up, I did want to just say hello, Jan Cromartie, who is running for soil commissioner here in the Durham area. So, Jan, I don't know if you've got anything that you want to say really quickly. We were actually wrapping up the show, but I did see that you popped in. So if you got something that you just want to share with us about life in general, Black Lives Matter, your campaign, or anything of that nature, you can do that real quickly, because I was wrapping up, but I did not want to disrespect the fact that you decided to pop in. So that being said, if you got something to say, go ahead for it, Jan.
And Jan, I can't see your face. Can you lean forward or something? There you go.
I'm better.
There you go.
I'm sorry, guys. Good afternoon. I saw this a minute ago. I was sitting here watching NBA playoffs, and it's my pleasure to join in with so many wonderful people. I wish I could have gotten here earlier. I wish Mark had called me because it seemed like it was a wonderful conversation. And we've been knowing each other for years. That's the Marquette in him where he attended. He's not an Eagle and he's not a Tar Heel and he's not a Blue Devil.
Doc Rivers was a Marquette too.
Yeah, I heard that. But guys, I'm trying to run for Durham County Soil and Water. One of the things that I'm trying to do is put in an innovative infrastructure for our water system here because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And there is a UV called filters in Paris, France, where they use their water. Actually, I had a baby brother that teach at the Sorbonne there. So I have some great ideas. I won't comprehend. Go ahead.
I want to share something with you then, because you guys know, hold on just a second. I want to share something with you, given what you want to do with water, because I understand the ultraviolet, what you're talking about, the ultraviolet sanitizing that are World Health approved. So,
yes.
And then I want you to get back and tell us and campaign. But give me a second to share this. Mark, will you allow me to share this?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, because you need to see this, because I can get access to this, but this would help us during COVID and during any evacuation or emergency situation. Hold on just a second. Here we go.
Can you tag me with this on my Facebook or any type of way, or send it to me on my email at cro39@yahoo.com?
Can you text it in the private chat and I'll copy? And absolutely, because so the Invention's been around for quite some time. I've just not been able to get anybody interested in it because nobody wants anything until, of course, they need it, right?
I didn't know.
But this device has the UV light in it. It also has an alkaline system. If you want an alkaline system to put alkaline back in your water, which is very important, by removing all of the alkalinity out of our water and the filter systems that we have today, that's why so many people are dying of cancer. They don't, people don't want to know this, I guess, but by removing all of the alkalinity that we were getting, because we remove it in all of our filter systems. So this system, he was smart enough to put the alkaline back in. So, because he was tired of people dying of cancer and dying.
You are brilliant, because the actor that just transitioned, he died of cancer. I don't know if that was related, but anything that's shared with us about cancer, people are going to take note, and you need to be a little bit, hopefully, more informative to the Durham community. Because we need positive input and feedback. No one's a know-it-all, and that's how I would be. I would empathize with Durham community citizens. I'm vice chair of my precinct for the Durham Dems, and I believe in people empathizing. No one's a know-it-all, and I am not a yes person. I'm not going to agree with every endorsement that my colleagues propose. So we need great people like you, great citizens like you to be a little bit more vocal, if you don't mind.
No, there's no doubt that Kim is very vocal about a lot of things that she's doing here on IBM TV and everything of that nature. So there's no doubt about that. She's just an amazing source of inspiration for all of us and things of that nature. And like I said, Jan, I know I've got to get ready to wrap up the show, but I'm glad that you popped in. I do want you to have at least a little bit of time to talk about your activism and just kind of the reason that Durham is so much a important part to your life. Absolutely. As well as one of the things that we're doing here, and we've been celebrating a lot of very important issues like talking about domestic violence and how that's going on in society and the Black Lives Matter movement and things of that nature. But later on in September, we'll be celebrating World Peace Day. But I do know that you're an activist, and I'll probably be reaching out to you to talk to you about what your message of peace would be. But if you just want to give us a little bit of a quick insight as to what you think of activism and how important peace is to you.
I have a quick question to Kim. The World Health Organization, aren't they at odds with the United States? Are you aware? So
what I'm saying is that the UV light, a lot of things have to pass a certification from somewhere. So the UV light that we use was approved by the World Health Organization about 10 years ago, but it was also stamped by UL and it was stamped but what they said is we met certain guidelines that killed certain levels of bacteria and worms and things like that. So the UV light, so the UV light passed all of the certification tests that we use in that particular device. So
this is great. It passed all the certification tests. So it's restricted, especially over in the United States with COVID-19, and we are the highest in the world. We definitely needed this information. Working for council, working for COVID-19. This is very informative. Thank you. God is good for bringing me here temporarily. And it's just incredible. I had some good news today when my flowers were flying off at South Point. Guy called me and spoke to me about that. But he also wanted to do some digital work for me that attended Carolina. So I was supposed to meet with him tomorrow, for a matter of fact. So thank you, Kim. Black Matters, we're doing great job here. Our Durhamite folk, we've been very peaceful. Our protests have been very peaceful. And I'm extremely proud of what we're doing here, but there's still a lot of work ahead with this systematic racism and COVID-19, and we don't need stupid officers out there. Excuse the word. Got some good ones on every level, then you got bad apples on other professional levels.
Yeah, my son's out there help protesting with the Black Lives Matters every day. So, it's keep it peaceful, right?
That's right.
And write down what your missions are, and let's make the changes happen. Let's just don't protest. This is what I ask people.
Yeah, I'm not about rhetoric. Rhetoric is good, but I'm about substance.
Let's make it happen. Let's just don't walk away and say, okay, let's don't turn our heads. And I think that historically that has happened. And what you need to do, and this is what I keep talking about here, is that you take all of these people and all of this anger, and then you filter it. And then instead of wasting your energies doing this, you go, you write down what you want, and you go to Washington, or you go to the governor or wherever, right? And you start making those change happen, right? You go on their doorstep together as 10,000 people. And but we got to start making those movements. And I think that's one thing Martin Luther King was doing, right? Martin Luther King did that very well. He managed to command peace at such high levels. And that's what we need to do. We need to stop the rioters. I don't know how we do that, but we need to stop them. They are not helping your mission. They are not. And we need to stop them. And and I don't know how that happens. If anybody has an idea, please send it to me and I'll route it up. But
your son need to be careful. He needs to be safe. He needs to be precocious. He needs to be careful when he's protesting, because a lot of foolishness do go on.
It's too much. But he's supporting Black Lives Matters. You can't. Sometimes you let your kids be their own, and I do the same. I tell them the same thing. If the police come around, don't argue. Don't zip it. How many times have I taught you? Put your hands up, right? But don't argue. Don't make your mission statement in front of them. Don't be a hero. Dead heroes don't make anything happen. And but this is what I tell people in times like this: raise your standards, lower your expectations, right? Then things will slowly get accomplished, right? And they'll slowly get accomplished with you being a little bit happier because your expectations are lower. Everyone says that's stupid. You should have high expectations. No, these are people, and it takes time. And don't expect an instant gratification. Okay, it's going to take time. Everything, when you break a bone, okay, it takes a season to heal. It's not just healed in a couple of weeks, right? It takes a whole season to heal and reuse. And so, but I'm glad that you're running for this commission. I'm glad to meet you.
Yes, ma'am.
That you will come back and have conversations with us that are healthy.
Yes, ma'am.
Soil. I need my soil tested. Can I get my soil tested with you?
Yes, you very much can. So, and I wish you could zoom in with us, but the water testers are not coming out now because they're restricted. The same thing with the folks that do checking erosion. And the storm water, about the Eno and Black Meadow Creek and the whole valley and in rural areas. So sending you digital water stuff to test, a lot of people, Kim, may not be digital literate. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
thank you. I've fought for the storm water. So I used to fight to help protect the stormwater watershed, right? So so I've been a part of that for many, many years. And I'm glad that we've got people who that's their concern.
And definitely people that are passionate about what's going on and things of that nature. So just real quickly, and I do need to be real quick, let's talk about your activism and the fact that you've been an activist for a number of years. I've known you for a while, Jan, and hopefully we'll get you to come back on some of our other IBM TV shows. But if you just share really quickly a little bit about your activism, and then after that, I've got to bring up our ambassador and wrap up our show. But I did want to give you at least a little bit of time to share your mission. But if you would, just tell us real quickly about your activism.
Okay. I was formerly the health chair of the Durham Committee on the affairs of Black people. I've been working the voting polls for the last 31 years. So I've had two major health forums, one with the Secretary of State, Mandy Cohen, who spoke about Medicaid over at Hayti. I had one of the Attorney General's assistants speak about the opioid epidemic. And if you all don't know, the highest number of deaths, opioid illness, is from New Hanover County in Wilmington, and that's in the entire United States. And I had one with the state health director, Elizabeth C. Tilson. So I've been pretty busy here. I'm a Durham vice chair of my precinct for the Durham Democrats. I'm also a executive board member for Partners Against Crime, and I'm taking classes at North Carolina Central. And I just moved to the Webstone Apartments in downtown Durham. So I got a lot going on, being on Zoom. League of Women interviewed me. I had to do something with them, the Durham Committee, People Alliance, kids voting. So there's a lot going on with me. I'm studying as I speak to you all. After I get off here, I'll be looking at this ball game and studying my classwork. So, Kim, can you please send me that some way?
Yes. Mark, can you connect us somehow? Can you get me his email and I'll send it to him?
Yes,
Thank
I
you
will
so
definitely do
very
that. I
much.
will connect the two of y'all so that you can get that
Or you can
information.
connect with me on Facebook. You can connect with me on Facebook as well.
What's her last name? What is your last name?
So it's Calhoun, Calhoun.
Oh, like
under IBM TV. I have there's a fan page there under IBM TV, and it's Kimberly Calhoun.
Wow, this is gonna blow people away. What you sent me? Oh, that'll be the envy when we go on our Zoom for the Soil and Water. I'm an associate Soil and Water person because I attended 3 consecutive meetings. So when I go on and share some things with them, it can blow them away. And I like to stand out.
Well, this is, if they're interested, they can come through me so I can get in touch with the inventor.
Okay.
Part of the deal is
I know the inventor?
Yes, I do. I know the inventor. It is patented. This is patented.
Wow. Hey,
yeah.
Why you tell me
we've
that,
got a
Mark?
lot of amazing folks here on IBM TV and everything, and you're just seeing the witness of that, Jan. So, like I said, I'm going to bring up the ambassador that we have that talks about health issues and things of that nature. So I'm going to play that right now. And then, of course, we've got on our other show that's going on right now, we've got Alexandria, and she's coming to us all the way from South Africa talking about music and things along that line. And then later on, we're going to have a show that'll deal with television creation of shows. So there's a group of young folks that are creating their own TV shows, their own movies, their own everything else. And it's a show called Talking Upstream. So that'll be coming your way at 4:30. I know I'm a big fan. Kim is a big fan. We oftentimes are sitting there making comments. I think we're having contests back and forth as to what our great ideas are because we're helping them create these amazing shows and coming up with all kinds of great ideas. So we're getting ready to do that right now. And I'm getting ready to bring up the ambassador. And like I said, I will be reaching out to you, Jan, as well, because you were a guest in the past on the show. So a number of our guests from the past, as well as future guests, will be sharing with us their ideas of peace. So we're going to have them do a series of videos because we're going to be a sponsor of a major peace event in September, as well as a music festival. Kim did not mention that, but we've got the big music festival coming up also. So we're going to be tying in a lot of musicians from around the globe because this is a global network. That's right. I might be based here in North Carolina. Kim is based in North Carolina as well, but we've got producers from throughout the world, and we're about solving these issues that are global issues. So we're trying to find ways to unify the entire world and for folks to celebrate their diversity. That's one of the things that Kim knows that I'm a big fan of, is that we can be unified, but also celebrate the fact that we come from different cultures, different orientations, just different aspects, different religions, different races, all of that. While we celebrate each other, we also are about being unified. So that's what I'm going to say right now, is to bring up the ambassador who wants us to be unified during this pandemic because she wants us to do all the right things in terms of covering your mouth if you got that cold, definitely washing your hands. But let's let the ambassador talk about that right now.
Let me get
hand और ऐसे अपने खांसी जब आएगी तो ऐसे करेंगे अच्छू अच्छू और कोरोना वायरस को धन्यवाद हमारा म्यूजिक सुनने का.
And now a little bit about the IBM folks and what they're all about. So I'm here to play that, and then that will wrap.